Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 23rd of September 2017. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today is Zachary Burgess.
We've got so much to talk about.
And Robert Kemp.
But first, do the Norwegians actually roll their R's? Was that a mistake?
I don't know. I talked to Finnish and Swedish, and we don't have any Norwegian.
We don't have any Norwegian. Do they roll their R's?
Not that I've noticed.
Okay. So it's probably not Froya.
No, probably not.
It's funny how that's an accent thing or a language thing. Like Spanish people roll their R's, right? Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Trying to work it out. Or maybe that's just, like I've got, there's someone I work with is Catalan. I guess he speaks, but his name's Ferran, but you have to roll it. But nobody does, so it's like Ferran. It's quite hard to say properly. Ferran.
What about those guys that have a name that's like Guerrera or something?
Guerrera. Oh, God.
Guerrera. That's the second one I struggle with. Guerrera.
Yeah, doing it twice is hardcore. Yeah.
Guerrera.
Surely, maybe you only roll the first one. I don't know. But there was another colleague who joined. Like, there's only two Android devs on the team. One is Fran, damn it, Fran, and and a junior dev joined him called Fernando, and Fernando is the Spanish version of
Fernando.
Ferran. So it's actually the same name. So there's Fran and Fernando, because Ferran's name is Catalan, not Spanish.
Wait, so they're spelt the same, but they're pronounced totally different?
No. They're not spelt the same, but I'm saying they're the same in the same way that John and Jack is the same, yeah.
Got you.
Or whatever.
John
or Roberto or something. Probably.
Hey, Roberto!
I imagine that's this version of your name.
Yeah, I think so. But in French it's the same, obviously.
Robert, yeah. You can't roll the R in your name, though, can you? Robert. That's what I'm saying.
Robert. No, I think you would, wouldn't you? Like with the French.
Maybe.
I don't know if French roll everything either. I think
no, they don't. They definitely don't. I don't know if they roll anything, do they? Eduardo. It just started to sound weird.
I think there might be certain things. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's not French.
So you think it was a Norwegian ship that you were trying to say?
Yeah,
well, it was a Norwegian ship.
It was, because we were trying to look up what the thing at the front of it was, because it wasn't like an HMS or a USS or something obvious.
Yeah,
It was like, well, I can't remember what it was. It's not in front of me now.
HMOMS or something.
Like Hanos.
Right.
Or Hasnos. Something like that. Something long. Like, because it had like NO in it for Norwegian, obviously. Obviously. There we go.
How did that start, that whole like weird initials in front of ships? Like, you don't need that to to
identify where they're from.
Well, I guess that's useful nowadays, but like they used that back in the Age of Sail and stuff, right? HMS Victory and stuff. But I don't think the French ships had equivalent at the time in the Napoleonic Wars.
Probably just because the Royal Navy wanted to be like fancy about it.
Super fancy, yeah.
They probably wanted to be like, this is definitely a Royal Navy ship, bitches. Look at our cool ships.
Yeah, but then at some point, USS, like the Americans copied it for some reason.
Well,
like Her Majesty's ship actually makes sense, like as a sentence, like Her Majesty's ship Victory or something. But United States ship something like isn't like a sentence in the same way.
It's about as close as you're going to get. It's not like it's the president's ship.
Is it because when we started sharing assets and designs and models that you couldn't just look at a ship and be like, oh, that's an American. Like, they had to put a prefix on it to be like, so you could sort of look at it from afar and be like, that's an American one.
I don't know if they were ever that closely designed at any point, really.
But aren't they now? Don't we like...
Not even really that close nowadays.
What? How do you mean? Like,
when we build battleships or something like that, or ships of importance, don't they just follow the same template like everywhere now?
No, I think they are different for almost everyone. I'm trying to think. The Japanese have some American style ones, I think. But even they're modified. And then there are some joint ones, I think, in like NATO, Europe and stuff. But I think all the British ones are just British. I don't think we share any ship designs with anyone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that must have happened with planes, right?
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, it's a bit weird that they don't do that with ships. I guess they're so big and the requirements are like specialized or something. But you'd think they wouldn't be that specialized. Yeah, it's weird.
I wonder if, like, well, maybe it's like from the outside, the boats aren't that dissimilar from each other, really. Like, so being able to tell the intricacies of those sorts of ships is just hard for laymen. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Unless you're like the spotter on the boat and you can tell, and it's like, oh, it's just something thing.
It's probably really hard to tell unless you're pretty close in general with ships. Roughly, you could see how big it is, but I don't know.
Well, I mean,
danger!
that
There's a boat and shizer to the port.
That is always the classic.
What's that?
The naval combat, isn't it? Like in World War II, where they're like, you try and determine what ship it is just from the shape of it from miles away before it can actually shoot you. Ideally.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Like dazzle camo's a thing.
Yeah.
And if it's big, it could probably shoot you first.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. Yeah, because radar's all well and good, but like there's a horizon. Like you're both on the sea. Like you're not going to be able to see that far, no matter how good your radar is, unless
and there's no chance of stealth unless you're a submarine.
No, exactly.
As soon as you can see them, you can see them. Unless it's foggy.
We put up a giant mirror.
Well, that'd be great. It's not even
plan.
like dazzle camo. It's just one side of the boat is just a giant mirror. You point that side towards the enemy, and then they can't see you because it just reflects more sea.
Like dazzle camo isn't even meant to hide you, is it? It's just meant to like throw off your gunnery targeting.
See what it looks like.
Yeah. Or I thought it was meant to make it difficult to do ranging before they had computers and radar ranging.
Sort of both, I guess.
Yeah.
Being able to see what shape it is sort of lets you range it by knowing how big parts of ships are, I guess.
I guess naval warfare just became a bit of a... Is it really that viable a strategy anymore?
Well, no,
like,
that's why it's aircraft carriers.
Yeah, there haven't been any naval battles for a while.
It's aircraft carriers and cruise missiles. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean,
or
I guess...
lasers, maybe. We're getting to the point where it might be lasers soon.
Yeah.
Or railguns. They seem to be
aircraft.
working on that. There was a video this week of the US Navy's tested a railgun for the first time that can shoot more than one shot in a row.
Right. Wasn't that the thing though? Like the lasers are powerful enough that, and the tracking is good enough that they could just focus on an aircraft or a missile, and like burn through
Mostly
a bit of it.
defensive at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going that well. That I've heard that laser business. I think they've. I don't think.
I thought they'd successfully managed to take down missiles with it.
They have, but it's the same situation as like. Well, it's not the same situation, but it's the same problem with railguns. It's like, yes, you can theoretically fire a shot of a railgun, but then it's fucked. And like with lasers, it's like they work, provided you're in like ideal conditions, which is very rare at sea.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
As soon as there's any moisture in the air, it fucks it all up, or if there's clouds.
Well, railguns are cool for naval gunnery because you don't need like charges. So all you need is power, right? So you just use if you have a nuclear reactor.
The reactor in the boat anyway.
yeah, and then you only need to.
What do they actually fire then?
Oh, shells, normal shells, I think. Well, not normal,
right.
but they fire shells like a gun, but they don't need a charge. So you don't need to pack your boat full of explosives, and you don't need to...
Yeah, got you. So they're not super dangerous to hit.
Yeah.
They probably would still catch on fire pretty good if you shot them.
I'm sure they would.
Because it's not gunpowder, it's not explosive, but it's a whole shit ton of electronics and coiled wires and shit that probably catches on fire quite well.
I guess you don't want to accidentally hit something that turns it on. Like, in a bad way. Like, it's just going to keep heating stuff up but not actually fire it. Like, is that possible? How do railguns work?
I don't know, magnets? Fucking magnets, how do they work?
It's a bunch of capacitors, isn't it? So
right.
Probably you might have to worry about those catching fire, because that's probably not good.
I bet they explode pretty good, the number you'd need.
Probably.
Throwing lots of that yellow hair into the air. That's how they make pasta still, right?
Yeah, totally. That smell and that yellow hair. That's what they're made of. That's what they like. Recover the clippings from hairdressers of blonde people
of
and
course.
use those to make pastas.
Yeah. The Germans are onto something with all their Aryan nonsense. It's like,
We're building a community of capacitors.
yeah.
See, I don't
Human
even have to
capacity.
pay for haircuts because they just use my.
They just take your capacity.
Yeah.
They were planning the Matrix all along.
Exactly. Right, we better get on to some video games because we've got a lot to get on about, apparently.
I want to very quickly put in my random bit.
Kitchen
This is a toaster update.
Yeah, toaster update. New toaster sucks. It's real bad. I can't believe they bought such a bad new toaster.
How is that even possible?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, how can there be a toaster on the market that you can buy and it's new and it's this bad?
So what is it? All right, let's just shame this toaster.
It's not Russell Hobbs. It's the other one. It's
What, Morphy Richards?
it is Russell Hobbs. It's
It's not Morphy Richards.
That's right.
Okay, yeah.
It's the other one of the two classic
I was
brands.
about to say, because ours is fine.
But yeah, it's fucking terrible. Like, the first problem is that the bread barely fits in the slot. And admittedly, that's me cutting slices of bread, so maybe I'm not doing it as thin as normal people would.
Okay, right. What, you're cutting up
But I
a
cut
loaf.
fairly thin slices,
Hmm.
reasonably thin, like off a loaf.
So it's not like a
It's not-
dulet with like a giant gap for like super thick cut.
No. So
bread.
it's like, and then maybe that fact that the bread barely fits in there leads to problem too, which is that it toasts incredibly unevenly. Like the bottom edge gets burnt and the top edge barely gets cooked.
Right.
And it's badly designed in general because like it has a knob for changing the heat, and it's got a tiny grey dot on the knob to tell you where it's pointing, and like a ridge that you can feel, which you can barely see. And like the numbers on the dial are like not even barely marked. It's like 2 and 5, and there's no markings apart from that. It's just like I have no idea where this knob is pointing,
Oh, weird.
and it sucks. The only good thing about it is that because it's new, it toasts fast,
Right.
relatively speaking, compared to the old one.
So could you put it on a little bit of time and then rotate your toast to get an even toast?
You could if you wanted to go to that
That would
way.
be a lot of effort, yeah.
Yeah.
Considering it's meant to be a convenience item.
Yeah.
So you
It's
don't have to
bad.
toast it in the oven like you used to.
Is it, like, I'd say the toast doesn't fit in there, like, thickness-wise, but it, like, barely even fits in there, like, vertically. Like, if I put in the slices laying down sideways, because our bread is usually taller than it is wide, because it's, like, proper loaf.
Hmm.
But it barely, when you pull it down, it barely fits in, like, the horizontal width of the bread is almost too tall for them to fit in the slot of the toaster as well. And I'm like, what is this toaster? What toast is this designed for?
Does it fit regular ass sliced bread? Like if you got like boring bread?
Well, maybe. Depends
I say
on
boring
what you
bread's the bread we
define as sliced bread. Because that was something that I remembered about. This is like an incredibly old memory that is just stuck with me for no apparent reason. Like when I went to Germany for the German exchange in like fucking year 9 of school or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And you know, I think this is actually a fairly common thing in Europe. But or it was at the time, maybe, who knows? But like when they have toast, they have specific bread for toast that's only for toasting.
Right, yeah, no, I have heard this.
And it's like maybe this toaster is just designed for that because it was really small as well, is what I remember.
Yeah.
It's a small and much more square shape.
Yeah, because the French do this as well. I'm sure when I've been in France, I'm sure I've had like there was bread, like a breakfast platter at a hotel, and there was clearly like this is the toast bread because it's near the toast machine.
Yeah.
And the other bread is like miles away.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's just like I don't understand how this toaster is so bad. God damn it! My breakfast is even more inconvenient with this shitty kettle that we still haven't got rid of.
And your
Can't
fake
you
toasted
just get a
sandwiches.
like? I'm sure you could get a toaster kettle set that were both like
Probably.
freaking awesome, you know, and it wouldn't be that. I don't know. You can get super fancy with that stuff, but you don't need to, do you?
No.
I mean, they're having
As I say, we're at the sort of, with, you know, I think our stuff is that borderline. That it's
Mid-tier.
it's as far as
Yeah,
you can go
mid-tier.
before you start hitting stupid money for a toaster.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where you
There
want
have
to
been
be.
several
Sweet spot.
times where I've considered just being like, fuck it, and just buying a kettle and toaster for myself and putting them in my bedroom. So that's maybe a bit much. Because also I'd have to actually bring the bread
Yeah, you don't want a
upstairs.
toaster in your bedroom. That would be weird. maybe the kettle. You could get a travel kettle or something.
Yeah, but then that wouldn't actually be as good probably. And also, I still have to bring the tea upstairs and the milk and all the other stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's not actually convenient at all.
You'd basically just be turning your room into a little hotel room.
Yeah, you'd have to have everything in there, like a little mini fridge or something.
You don't need okay, milk. Unless you start buying like shipments of little milk cartons.
Gross.
Yeah, you need one of those little, what they call those little beer fridges with the glass doors.
Or if you wanted to do it on a daily basis, maybe you could just like thermos it. Keep the milk in the fridge during the night, and then have it in a thermos so it stays cold long enough. Not that you need cold milk for tea necessarily.
Just like, I don't know, next time something like an appliance goes wrong in your house, just buy one yourself. Just be like I've ordered one off Amazon.
Yeah, that is very tempting.
I know what I'm doing, guys.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing. That's the thing. It's just like but I don't understand how these terrible decisions could have possibly happened.
I don't understand. Why don't
it's really quite simple. You just go to Debenhams, look at it, and go, "Yep, that's a toaster." And then
that is the classic problem with anything like this. Is like you're buying it without being able to test it. Really,
I guess. Yeah.
I'm sure if you bought one, that you would get a good one straight off the bat with no testing required. I guarantee.
All you need is a little bit. Like if you're really going to research a toaster, I bet there's like a what toaster site. Or something.
There definitely is. And I mean, what I don't understand is like probably your parents, they don't give a shit about like researching toasters, but you obviously do. So why don't they just let you choose it?
I don't know if I give a shit about researching toasters, but I feel like
you
any research in any way.
I don't think
but they can rely on you.
The research part of this operation. All he cares about is the end result of the toaster. It's not that there's something weird about your phrasing there. It's like, no, I'm really into toaster research.
Well, I'm just gonna go. Yeah, I'm just going to go on the wire cutter and see what they say the best toaster is.
You could literally just go on Amazon and look at the star ratings and that would be enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, was seriously tempted to look up this toaster that we have on Amazon and see what its rating is.
Oh, yeah.
To see if it's just shit.
No, that's actually legitimately interesting.
Well, here we go. Here's the best toaster.
But I was thinking about this again because I was thinking about I probably need to buy a new bed.
Buy a new bed.
Well, I probably need to buy a new.
Sorry, we were talking about old adverts before we started. Like we were talking about dime bars and things like that. But there was an old bed factory ad that used to be on like SGR or something.
Yeah.
And it basically just used to go, buy a new bed. That was all it did.
Well, that's quality radio advertising.
Yeah, at the bed factory.
Yeah, I need to buy a new bed frame at least. But then I was thinking, I should probably just get a new mattress as well.
Yeah, I need a new mattress.
As you do. But then I was like, how do you know what you're getting? I'm not going to go to a fucking bed store and lie down on beds. That's the worst thing ever.
People do that, though.
What? But that's the best thing.
No, it's not.
That's kind of fun. You just sort of like just lump onto things.
But there's no way, even that, there's no way that you could actually simulate what it's like to sleep in a bed.
No, not at all.
You could be like, maybe I can try and lie in the position that I actually sleep in, maybe, but that's not actually going to give you really that much indication of what it's actually like.
No, but it's kind of entertaining.
And gross. Think of all the thousands of other people who lie down on that specific bed.
That doesn't bother me too much.
I'd probably try one of these, probably because we talked about advertising earlier, and I think that
are you talking about these ridiculous number of fancy internet mattresses?
Yeah, fancy internet mattresses. So the main form of advertising that genuinely, definitely works on me because it's directly targeted at me and just is, and because it's such a small pool of adverts, like it's just repeated over and over, which is very important to getting your stupid message across, is adverts on podcasts.
Yep.
I mean, they're all the same. Like, how many times have you been fucking Squarespace or Audible?
Build it beautiful.
Oh my God, build it beautiful. Build it beautiful, as they say on the podcast I listen to. As if it's like a 1920s.
Squarespace don't use that now, and I've noticed Corsair now use that. The build it beautiful catchphrase.
It's kind of because on the Flop Pals, he keeps saying it even though they don't use that, and he says it for other sponsors as well. He just randomly say, "Build it beautiful." Shame. But of course, the one in the UK is Casper, I guess. And
there's loads because you get we've got the Eve. as well.
There's
British.
Eve.
Lisa have turned up in the UK now as
and
well.
And I've heard the Lisa adverts on the American podcast for ages, and they keep
yeah,
going
yeah.
on about, if you're not happy, just send it right back.
A 100-day guarantee.
Yeah, all this shit.
But that's the weird. To the point where actually, like, because of the way they ship those and those compression,
it's like, how do you get it back?
So how do you get it back? And it's like, so some of them now actually are. We realise this mattress is ridiculously expensive, so we actually don't mind coming to get it if you don't like it.
Oh, that's cool.
There's some that do that now. But yeah, those things, but they're absurd amount of money though. Like, I know mattresses are in general, but they're like £600-700.
Yeah, this is like 550 for. What's the difference between a double and an EU double? EU is bigger.
EU is a little bit wider because that's the problem we have. Because your Malm frame that we nicked is an EU double.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So the double mattress we actually have for it doesn't quite fit.
Oh, interesting. It's too small.
Yeah, the mattress we have is a bit small.
Well, my problem would be that I like a long one. Like, my current mattress is slightly longer than average.
Well, EU single is just according to this, EU single is just 10 centimeters longer than a normal single, and that's the only difference. Yeah, so you should get the EU single.
What's on my bed.
Yeah, that's true.
H&S mattresses. It's the classic. How old is your mattress?
I don't even know because it came in a flat. But yeah, I've been experimenting with the cheaper scale of things, which is the pillow. So I got a memory foam. I've got various pillows, and I haven't decided which one I like the best because I'm also like.
Oh wait, you've actually just got them, and you're now.
Well, the thing is, once you sleep on them, you can't return them. So obviously, I got a. Like fancy, like Hungarian goose down or whatever, like really fluffy one, and that one's good. But I'm trying to figure out. But like after you're done sleeping on it, it's like basically completely compressed. Yeah. So when you actually wake up, like it's super comfy to like sink into or whatever. But like when you actually wake up, it's like whatever's underneath it is what's actually holding you up, which is a bit weird. So, and it's a bit too high in my classic standard of 2 pillows. And then I got a memory foam one or whatever, or what's it called, Tempura Cloud or whatever, and that one is definitely too high when you have 2 pillows. So I have to then I tried it just on its own, which is what my brother does. But now I'm at a sort of in between where I've sort of got a folded up blanket underneath it, which isn't as high as a pillow. Raise it slightly.
I think that's my problem. Like, I'm sort of in that awkward zone where 1 pillow doesn't quite feel high enough, but 2 pillows is definitely way too much.
It's too high, yeah. So
I end up sort of like sleeping with my arm under the pillow.
Yeah.
Sort of raising me up a little bit.
Well, this seems to be working. It's just a folded up blanket, and it seems to be the working okay. As long as your 1 pillow has to be good enough to not need much cushioning under it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm still not totally happy.
Have you found your toaster back?
Rob has successfully got Amazon toasters to find my specific toaster.
Well, I tried to look at the best toaster, but on this site, which I use for gadgets, but it's American, and it's the best American toaster, which isn't any use.
Apparently, this toaster that we have, unsurprisingly, is real cheap.
Right.
It's all of £21 of toaster.
Wow.
Well, that's the average end of toaster prices.
No, it isn't.
Well, because I think ours was like 30.
And the Amazon rating is 3.5 stars.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what's the toaster to get then?
Well, I want to know what it's been marked down for now.
Yeah, exactly. Go and look at these customer reviews.
Live toaster reviews. Except we're not reviewing toasters.
Okay, there's a 2-star that says release mechanism broke within 6 months. And I mean, that's...
Okay, right. That could happen. Wait, the release mechanism? Like, oh, what? So they had no pop?
So where are we? The best one? What's the best one? Then?
That's a weird thing to put in your review of a basic toaster. No real useful features apart from toasting, I guess. what are you expecting?
Well, unless the toasting didn't work.
And then the review just starts. As a toaster, it functions. It toasts bread into toast.
What the hell is this? There's like a tunnel toaster where you slot it into a tunnel.
Yeah, it goes through. It's like an industrial toaster, except in small scale.
Oh, what? Like it's a conveyor belt?
Conveyors through.
Yeah, no, like what they have at some hotels.
Okay.
tunnel toaster. Yeah, because there's ones like the hotel ones. There tends to be like a slot on the top, and it goes one way to toast one side, and then comes down a slope that flips it over or something, and then toasts the other side. Or you get some that are just bars on each side as it goes through.
I don't know why I'm shopping for toasters now. Which one are you supposed to buy then?
Well, I recommend the fairly standard Morphy Richards 4-slice toaster.
Oh yeah,
because it has quite nice wide slots. It's got the classic crumb tray. It's the slots that when you push down on
all the classic toast devices.
Yeah, it's got everything you need. But
this is only 28 quid on Amazon, so you're only paying a premium of what was it? 7 quid,
£7. Yeah, but the good thing is that the slots are wide enough to put practically anything in it, and they're the sort of graspy slots. So like as you push down on the thing, you get the sort of clamping effect to the width of your bread.
It comes in lots of colours.
Yeah.
This 4-star review claims that the slots are cavernous, taking thick slices with extra ease, and large enough to fit hot cross buns. And I'm like, no, it fucking ain't. So what are you talking about? Why not even be a review for this toaster?
Do you have space for a 4-slot toaster, Zeg? Very important.
Yeah,
we get this right.
We have plenty of space.
Well, yeah.
Space isn't really a problem.
Well, come talk to me, mate. I can sort you out of a toaster.
I think you should invest, Zeg. Yeah, get yourself a Morphy Richards toaster kettle combo.
Don't buy whatever the fuck we got.
Yeah. Okay.
The terrible 20 quid Russell Hobbs thing.
Okay.
Bad. Anyway, let's fucking move on, because we somehow managed to turn that random way too long.
You get a bit of toast, put it in the slot, will never get toast. Or whatever that
phrase
is.
You don't put toast in the toaster and get toast. You put bread in there.
Oh yeah.
You put toast in the toaster and you get toast. That's not a particularly great toaster, I don't think.
You've made breakfast spooky.
Spooky eating toast.
Get that reference in again. There we go.
Get both those references. The 2 references to toast.
Yeah.
Casper make pillows as well.
Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense.
What is the difference between all those mattresses? Because like some of them are like just foam, some of them are foam with springs.
Well, they're just different mattresses.
Well, the Casper one is foam with.
But some of them like have like a micro spring mini layer, like a layer that's like only like a centimetre high, that's just filled with springs for some reason. It's like, is that more effective than just putting foam there, or like having
might be cheaper,
or massive springs like they have in like normal mattresses?
Well,
micro spring.
I don't know. Casper have obviously spent money on a web developer.
Yes, well, I think they all have the same web developer. all the sites for these mattresses are identical.
Right.
All that changes is the colour.
Probably all from Squarespace.
Yeah, like Lisa is yellow or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Casper is blue.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's like the only difference.
But the Casper's saying like, we put a pillow in your pillow, so you can sleep while you sleep.
So you can sleep when you sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh god.
All the memes.
Yeah, there was a dank meme stall at EGX.
What was it? Selling dank memes?
It was basically it was very much a crapware, like just like mouse mats and mugs and stuff with random things on it, like a mouse mat with nothing but Nicolas Cage's head on it and things like that.
Okay.
But they were just called "We Have Dank Memes," and had a different. For some reason, they had a different banner over the 2 days. Like the first day, there was just Nicolas Cage. The second day, it had that guy from Lazy Town, just leaning in with Doge the other side, going "Such wow."
Yep, right.
Dank.
And so somehow they had brought multiple banners to advertise themselves.
What do you mean somehow?
Well, I mean, like, why do you need multiple banners for the same store? Like, why did you need to change
because
it?
they wanted to make it fancy.
Yeah.
They wanted to doubly entice people.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't like one of those memes, so you can get a different meme on the next day.
Okay, well, no, but they like the store with like the content available is so.
Sure, but the thing that's going to attract you from across the room.
I mean,
you might be like, that meme isn't dank enough, and then you come back the next day and it's like, oh, that's more like it.
What defines the dankness now? Is it like the age of the
fucking
meme?
knows?
It's like,
well, on the dank meme subreddit at Reddit, anything you submit, there's a bot that just puts a pinned comment on the top that just says dank.
no, it's
helpful.
Because there was like one that I don't know, like I'd forgotten about Dat Boy.
Yeah,
like
that's fairly old at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, the original was the Oh, how would you describe that guy? It's born too late to explore the world, born too soon to explore the galaxy, born just in time to browse dank memes.
Yeah.
And it's like what is it, like a cone head guy with like eyes, like he's super high eyes or something.
Yeah.
I sort of remember now.
I think that was the start of the whole thing.
Wow.
Or maybe not.
Calling them dank at least.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was fairly near the origin of that.
Or close to the origin. Yeah, I mean, they're different though, aren't they?
Not really.
Not really, no. Well, they're still mining material out of those Star Wars prequels somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway, just remembered the jingle for Lisa mattresses now from the Adam Buxton podcast.
Do they have a jingle, or did he?
Well, of course he makes jingles for everything. So his is like,
right.
Buying a new mattress is so hard. What if you don't like it when you got it? Oh no.
Was he trying to do it in old Britpop?
I think so, maybe.
Yeah. Oh no.
Right, news.
Video
game news.
News!
What's going on?
Sort of a segue to EGX, but we might as well do real news first.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way, because there isn't any.
Because there's none. Yeah.
What do we got? Something about the NES Golf being inside the Switch, complete with motion controls, as some kind of Easter egg tied to... What is it tied to? Iwata.
Well, right, yeah. So it's in... I assume this is one of Iwata's early games that he worked on for Nintendo, hence why it's Golf and not something else. But
right.
yeah, apparently every Switch has a copy of this lurking inside it, but you just have to figure out how to unlock it on the date of Iwata's death.
Anniversary. No, you don't have to go back in time.
Yeah, you don't have to go back in time. Yeah. It's not how he died. Like he wasn't playing motion control Switch Golf and something.
As far as we know, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's it's there. It was found, but then people couldn't figure out how to access it. Like, how do you legitimately get it to come on? Or was it just left there by developers? And it's like, there did seem to be a mechanism, but all people could figure out was there's some kind of motion required in order to unlock it.
Well, the thing I read said that it might be the motion that he used to do in Nintendo Directs when he was like, direct to you.
The two palms towards the like holding the medium-sized
tunnel
box
from your face.
In the Big Fish Little Fish cardboard box, it would probably have been the sort of somewhere in between the Big Fish and the Little Fish. No, Little Fish is about right. Actually. Using rave language.
Helpful references.
Take your left hand, then you take your right hand. Then you put both hands on your head. And you do the migraine skank.
And then you look furtively around for the cops.
Well, probably after you.
We have to try and find that video again and reference what it is that we're talking about. It's so weird. So I don't know. It's kind of neat that there's an Easter egg in the Switch, I suppose, that will be incredibly difficult to access. What makes it like you can't just change the system clock either. It's not jippable, because as it turns out, they've discovered that the Switch actually runs two clocks. Like one that you can customize and set, but one that's actually synchronized to the Nintendo server time if you've ever taken the console online. So currently the only way to legitimately try and figure out how to get this thing is to get a Switch that has never been online, because then it won't have set its internet clock.
But I mean, every new Switch has never been online, so I'm sure someone will try.
So yeah, someone will demonstrate it at some point, I'm sure.
Right, what else we got? Mario 64 Online, that effort has been lawyered. Lawyers! What do you expect?
One would expect.
Anyway, it's a cool idea.
Someone explain, how would it have worked? Like, what is it? So it's multiplayer.
It's exactly what it sounds like. It's multiplayer Mario 64. You just get a shit ton of Marios running around.
Oh, right. So it's it wasn't because didn't the DS version have some form of co-op or
Did it?
No, not really.
Didn't it? I thought you could get 4 people into something.
Well, it had mini games.
Oh, is that what it was?
And I'm not sure even those were multiplayer. I'm not entirely sure that is a thing that actually existed, but it had mini games.
I thought it had a had something of some kind. Descriptive. Yeah, so yeah. I hope you had fun while it lasted, peeps. There will probably almost always be a way of getting hold of it, though.
Yep, naturally.
It'll be somewhere. It just might not be fit.
Go forth and play bootleg mods for 21-year-old games.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like you're not playing, a ROM hack. It's basically the same thing. Except ROM hacks are even older.
True.
True that.
What else going on? Battlefield Heroes is coming back. Did I hear?
But only unofficially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fan.
Oh, really?
project
Well,
to
the
bring it
lawyers
back.
will come down on that as well. I expect.
Maybe. Does anyone care?
Yeah, does EA care? I mean, if they change,
it's
all
pretty...
they have to probably do is hack the word Battlefield out of it, and they'd probably be all right.
Player Unknown's Battlefield Heroes, is that?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Or Hacker Unknown.
Hacker Unknown, yeah. Have you got Sonic news? I don't know.
There's a tiny bit of Sonic news in that it might have got leaked that they're doing a DLC pack for Sonic Forces that has Shadow the Hedgehog as a featured character.
Can't you just
in some way.
create Shadow using the stupid character creator?
Probably not.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
It will be interesting. I wonder if Hedgehog will be a species you can pick.
I'm not sure it is.
No, that seems like it's something they wouldn't let you do.
No.
Right. So you have to be like a weird looking...
You have to be one of the
Nerdy.
non-main character species.
I can't even remember what they've said those are. There is like a limited set, like
yeah.
like Bunny.
Of course there is.
And,
There has to be a limited set. So maybe you can make Cream the Rabbit.
or a single-tailed fox, I think
Yeah,
is allowed, but
regular
not,
ass fox.
but not a two-tailed fox.
I don't know what that main one that they originally showed is meant to be. Is that a wolf? I guess
Or-
it's a wolf.
Yeah, or a weasel thing.
What, the nerdy guy with the glasses?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's meant to be a wolf.
Yeah, maybe a weasel type thing. Doesn't look very wolfy to me.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you have to think about it in the Sonic universe
Yeah.
style.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Tails is a fox. But like he's not
Yeah.
exactly dog-ish
No.
in any way.
A little bit. The tails give it away that he's a fox.
Yeah,
He looks more like a fox than Sonic looks like a hedgehog.
sure.
Maybe. I don't know. Spikes.
Sonic does not look like a hedgehog at all.
Well, a creature has spikes on its back.
Yeah, but
It does,
hedgehog
apparently.
spikes don't look like
Yeah.
that, do they?
No, but that's...
They look like actual spikes.
Yeah, I guess you'd say if you were comparing Sonic spikes to actual animals, his spikes are more like a porcupine. Really.
Yeah.
No,
Probably
yeah.
that kind of swept
Yeah.
back style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then,
true.
but that was supposedly caused by the experiment.
Yes,
Yeah.
we discussed previously.
Yeah.
Oh no, Sonic Law.
The spines fused together. Unofficial Sonic lore, I suppose. STC lore. Yeah, so there'll be some Shadow stuff, but it's like one assumes that means Shadow would become playable in it, in some form.
He appears to be a villain, at least in the main story, because we've already seen him in a cutscene with all the other villains.
Yeah,
in this dimension universe mashup thing that
Yeah.
they're going for.
but it's hard
So-
to know exactly what's going on in it.
So they've got
as
a
far as I
whole
can tell,
weird,
like
like-
every character is in it in some form.
Yeah,
But it's clearly got some kind of weird military theme, given it's called Sonic Forces, and it kind of the logo looks
There-
kind of.
well, as we discussed previously about like the Avatar character, it's like it seems like it's going to be a resistance movement type thing.
Yes, very
Right.
much so. Like Eggman has already taken over or something, and
Right,
this is
right.
the fight back.
Right, but
Because
Shadow's
of
the only one with
time
actual
travel,
guns, right?
I think man has a lot of guns. He just
That's
doesn't
true.
Well,
use them
technically,
very
the
often.
Avatar has a weapon.
Yeah, sometimes it's nearly a gun,
Kind of, yeah.
depending on how you say it.
We could just, unless there's any more news, I could just jump straight into. I have played Sonic Forces.
Yeah,
No, I'm out of news, so let's go on. We'll give it a bit of context, though. Where
I have
you
been to EGX for a couple of days, and it's still on right now. So people will be at it tomorrow. By the
So
time it goes out,
EGX
it'll be
is
the
the,
day
like,
that it goes on.
Eurogamer Expo, I guess. Used
It
to
is,
be.
yes.
I don't know if it's still associated with Eurogamer. But it's-
No, I think it is. I think they just shortened it to EGX. And
Yeah.
in fairness, there's not a lot of Eurogamerness about it.
Right, yeah.
Like you couldn't really tell that you're a gamer or running the show. It's just like a video game expo.
Yeah.
There's like one booth in the whole place where you can buy like official EGX branded T-shirts and stuff.
Oh.
For some reason, if you wanted a T-shirt that just had EGX in big letters on it. Not quite sure why, but you can.
They didn't go for anything ridiculous like I witnessed the most powerful console in history or anything. They didn't make their branding dumb.
Well, I suppose the expo wouldn't do that. Like the console makers.
Well, when they let the public into E3, there was a bunch of T-shirts along similar lines, wasn't there?
Oh,
was
right,
like,
yeah, sort of.
I went to E3, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, they're always a bit creepy. Those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's been happening, and I did 2 days this year instead of my normal one. Like after previous years, we just thought it's like if we wanted to see the big games, the queues were just always way too long. But it meant you didn't then get to do enough of the indie section, which was the problem we had last year. We didn't spend enough time in the indies. So with a couple of days, you've got enough time to do what you want to do. So you can do a few of the bigs and all the smalls, or the ones that look interesting anyway. So that's what we did, and it's well worth it. We had a good time, and as part of that, Sega had a fairly big selection of Sonic Forces machines. All running on PS4 in some form, and with 4 playable little demos available as well, so you could experience all aspects of the gameplay. I say not all, but small snippets of every character's style gameplay.
Oh, right.
So I've done that.
Okay.
The good news is that the Sonic stuff,
Which one?
both of
More
them,
specific. Okay.
seems okay. So the modern Sonic one was the most complete, I guess, of the demo bits available, and that plays exactly as you expect. It plays like a modern Sonic level.
No new mechanics in it.
Not noticeably.
Or maybe you unlock them.
Yeah, later on. It seemed pretty standard. The level itself felt a bit like a cross between Spagonia and the Greek level from the start of Unleashed. The Greek-looking level.
The other one that might as well be Spagonia.
Yeah, I guess the sort of town. So, but that was the classic sort of everything's on fire.
Yeah.
Zone that we've seen from the trailers and stuff like that, and that played just fine. The good news is for console owners, they are targeting 60 frames per second properly this time, rather than the 30 frames that we had in Generations. So that's nice.
Well, that's
and
kind
it
of
was
vital, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is vital. I thought that of Generations, to be fair. It's like it was a way better experience on PC than it was anywhere else. So that was slick and didn't really hold back. And also, I would say the presentation is pretty good. Like I think they've taken what they learned, some of what they took from Generations. There's some tech, I would say, even from like Lost World, in the way that they make the grass move and stuff, and like they're borrowing from some of the stuff they've done before. But it very much looks like a Sonic game still, just with a little bit more sheen to it, thanks to current gen stuff. So that's good. That was reassuring. It had some. There's like mid level voiceover stuff.
Well, that was the thing
now.
we saw in that first time they showed that, where it's like, why isn't there people talking to you constantly?
Yeah.
Every single character has to have something to say.
There is quite a bit of it, admittedly, and they're sort of explaining what's going on and what you're doing, and
Why you're trying to play the level.
Yeah, it's you can zone it out. It's fine.
It's not necessarily a problem with zoning it out. It will be a problem if it happens every time you replay that level.
Yeah, that's the thing. I hope
that's like a story mode first time through.
Yeah.
And then after that, if you go back and replay it, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, yeah. Or is like turn offable or something like that. Let's hope they thought about that. In fairness, it wasn't too bad. There's a certain. I think they're borrowing the voice actors and the writing style from the Sonic Boom cartoon. Like weirdly, even though it's not a Boom related game, it's like I think the voices they were using for Knuckles, especially Knuckles, is like the most recognizable one, I guess, from the new cast. That is like, yeah, okay, this sounds like they're going down that path. So when I played the classic Sonic section, which is basically must be the first boss fight against Eggman you do as classic Sonic, Eggman's lingo felt very much in line with that style of presentation. Like, there's a certain tongue-in-cheek to and fro going on between him and the...
Well, he's been doing that more in general recently, hasn't he? Like,
that it's very knowing, and like they like Tails and him are cutting at each other with what they're saying and things while you're trying to fight this thing. And I thought that was very well presented as well. It was quite a slick, not overly complicated, but they brought back the Egg Dragoon in some form.
God, that boss sucked in Generations. That was like the worst.
Yeah, it's not nearly that bad, but it's so they brought it back on the Green Hill Zone as it was, and it has the end boss for that, and it was fine. It was a good time. It's good. It's worth pointing out at this point that the presentation design of Sonic Forces is quite different from what they've done before. They're really leaning into this black and red theme of how it's done, but it's all like very solid blocks, and everything's always slanty. So like your ring counter, for instance, is a slanty block at the top of the screen, and the boost meter even at the bottom of the screen is like a slanty black block and things like that. So they're going all in with this styling, and I think it works. It's very clean, very crisp, and the way it transitions between like you dying and it coming up with the try again message and then transitioning back into where you were, it's all very slick, very smooth. Like they've done a good job there. It's instant as well, like no loading times really. It just goes, yep, sliding in, sliding out. It's great. Good job there, guys. And that's where the good stuff ends, because the Avatar stuff sucks.
The one new thing.
Yeah, they've done the rule of like, I guess it's the rule of three, right? In Sonic games, it's like the third thing they add is always the worst thing. And I did not enjoy that at all.
So, go on. What's the deal?
So, the Avatar controls differently for a start. So it's a bit floatier movement. Like the momentum of the left-right movement felt weird. Then, like a bit more. You need more of a run-up if you want speed to get over certain obstacles, which was problematic. Meaning certain sections, like if you're taking it slow to try and figure out the platforms, it's like there'd be a jump that was practically impossible unless you'd done the whole section at speed, it felt like. And it's like, okay, that doesn't feel particularly fair. There was one section where a bridge just sort of disappears in front of you if you didn't know what was happening, so I just sort of fell into the thing. And it's like, well, great, I didn't know that was coming. And then it was kind of hard to figure out actually what it wanted me to do at that section. It wasn't too bad once I'd actually been able to stop and see it before dying. But you just sort of plow through that bit and you just sort of fall off and die. And it's like, okay, level design issues. Also, he has a homing attack, but it's not the same as the others. It's sort of delayed because he has to fire like a grapple beam out of his gun and then does it and then attacks it. So it's like that's not your primary way of getting around anymore. You have to... the way you're supposed to destroy enemies is with your weapons, which are... You can pick between several. Now, I tried the electric whip, which sort of zaps a load of stuff in front of you instantly, but also has a bit of a charge to it. So you charge forward a bit while whipping this thing around, and that works okay in 2D, which the Avatar stage was in, but I'll come back to that a bit later. We've got the flamethrower, which seems infinitely easier to use because you just stand in front of stuff and pull the trigger and go blah, and everything dies.
W plus M1.
Oh, I'm going to cough. Hang on. Cut. Yeah. So, but depending on which weapon you pick, also grants the Avatar an ability. So you can only have one of those abilities at the time, and the level is designed to support multiple abilities at once. But you'd only be able to obviously take the route that's suitable for your chosen equipment. So, for instance, the flamethrower has the ability to do wisp-powered rocket boosts. Sort of. So you get like a power bar when you find the rocket wisp, and then you can use it a certain number of times to jump up certain routes. But if you muck up your jumping and you run out of power, the rocket wisp doesn't respawn. So it's like, all right, now I'm stuck going the other route if I mess that up. So there's a bit of, I don't know, resource management in it that I didn't quite get to grasp with in my time with the demo.
Weird.
Same with the electric whip in that it basically gives you the light speed dash as its power, so you can zip along rings, but you can only use it if you've got the wisp power, the laser wisp, to do it. And again, that's on a limited resource.
A common, mechanic that you're doing constantly, like in the old games.
And well, no, not unless it's part of the Sonic stuff as well at some point, but there's no indication of that. So I found that kind of awkward, which was made infinitely worse when we then did the fourth bit of the demo, which I didn't realize was a thing, which is tag levels, where one of the Sonics and the Avatar team up, and you have a sort of combination level where it's got some Sonic stuff and some Avatar stuff in 3D, and it was just a mess, to be honest. Like, it puts you into combat situations as the Avatar, which are never good in Sonic games. And if you've got the whip, which is charging around on these platforms with spaces around the outside, you could just very easily charge your way off the platform. And for the love of God, don't push the boost button accidentally when you're doing that, because you'll just boost to oblivion. Which, admittedly, that was my fault. But still, those bits kind of sucked, and were just a bit of a pain to work around. And it just seemed like there were some really pointless bits to it. Like at the start, it makes you do mash the button to get your tag power up, and then you charge really fast down a straight line for a while, in which you don't have to do anything. Like, it's just a straight line, and there's a load of bad guys there, and it's like, it's a tag moment. But there's no gameplay to it. And yeah, I don't know. It seems like they've taken the Generations idea and then thought, yeah, we'll really mess this up. It's like, why? Why have you done that? I guess a Sonic team always have to try and do something new.
Well, hopefully it would just be like Generations, where you only play the good levels.
I guess.
You play through it once, and then when you actually want to go back, you're just like, I'll just play the ones that are actually good.
But that's the thing, that's almost every Sonic game has this thing where it's like about half of it is actually good, but it's seriously brought down by the other half of it. And Generations didn't have that problem really.
Yeah, it did.
Not a whole 50% of the game.
Probably.
All of the stages, the main stages, I thought were fine.
Not really. Some were not as good as others though.
But then the ones you liked more. I don't like. Was it Crisis City or whatever?
That was a good level with a decent flow. That was the thing about it.
You see, I don't like that. I don't think.
It's like I didn't like most of the classic Sonic levels because it's just like I don't really like how he handles in Generations specifically, but I didn't really like the old classic Sonic style anyway. Which is why it's going to be weird in Forza. It's like, is it going to be better handling, or is it going to be exactly the same?
Well, yeah, because I didn't really get a proper stage with classic Sonic, but I think it's the same.
And then, of course, once they, for some reason, decided that classic Sonic had to have a homing attack, it's just like, really? Just design the stages better for classic Sonic. Don't try and turn him into modern Sonic by randomly deciding that he can now homing attack.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he. I'm not sure he could in the boss fight. Anyway, I couldn't just home in onto Eggman.
I mean, again, we don't know whether that could just be a boss fight thing or not.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't particularly fill me with as much confidence as I had originally, because it feels like Sega are confident, right? They had a reasonably big.
they think they've got a good idea.
Yeah, they had a reasonably large number of screens set up just for this, and it's I think they're betting on it. And although interestingly, it's come to light that apparently, in the States at least, it's releasing at the $40 price range rather than the $60. So they're not going full big budget on this.
Well, that might just be because Sega has realised that game prices are ridiculous. And Sega can get away with not charging less.
I doubt it, but I wonder if they're looking at the success of Sonic Mania and being like, hey, this did pretty good. Well, actually, I have no idea how it sold. But,
well, it's going to highlight, isn't it? It's going to highlight how, throw into sharp relief how kind of average modern Sonic games are in comparison to classic Sonic games.
I guess. Yeah, compared to the classics anyway.
Yeah,
The
we're-
real question about forces that will make a difference is like, well, I mean, how many stages obviously is an important thing, but then like, what is the connecting tissue like? Is there any, or is it just completely stage to stage?
Because
if you think about,
or is it hub world like
yeah,
generations?
like
or...
if you think about colors, where it's just like it is pretty much just stage to stage. There's not. I mean, you're on a world map, and it's literally a map.
Yeah, but obviously you went through it in order, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was clear like this is stage 1, this is stage 2.
But then when you get to generations, where it's like there's a bunch of side missions in the weird overworld, and some of those you have to do to unlock progress. But that's they could not do that if they wanted. But it's like, is that a structure that is? What is the structure of a Sonic game that would make sense? Is it better just to go stage to stage, or do you actually want some other things?
Yeah, do you do the adventure thing and try and make a 3D hub world of some description? Or do you do the Sonic Adventure 2 thing and just have nothing?
Yeah.
It just goes.
Just literally a story.
Yeah. Or do you do somewhere in the middle and do Sonic Colors, or Sonic Lost World, for instance, had a bit of that? Sort of. It was still mostly you play the stages in order, but there was the occasional side thing.
And then not just like what are the side things? Because Generations, technically, it was still just more of the stages, just with specific mission goals layered into them.
Yeah, or with gimmicks, or gimmick stages, right?
Yeah.
Like the Sky Sanctuary floaty thing stage.
Yeah.
Or...
Do you want that, or do you want some other kind of completely different mini game to do in between the levels, or mini games, something? No.
Yeah. So, right. The proof's in the pudding, I suppose, and the pudding was lukewarm.
people keep saying the proof's in the pudding, but I'm
Really?
sure the proof for
that was going to be that.
I'm sure the proof of the. I'm sure the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I thought that was the phrase, because that actually makes sense. What does the proof is in the pudding mean? It means like they put alcohol in the pudding?
I'm not sure that's exactly what it means. I'm sure proof refers to something else.
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe.
Anyway, never mind.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it is one of those weird short things that doesn't make any sense.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I don't know. You've got me thinking about it now.
Someone's going to Google it in a second, I'm sure.
Yeah. Is it an acorn? Yeah, so Sonic Forces. And then there's the bit where you try and remember all the things I saw, because I saw a lot of things.
Well, how many of them do you need to talk about if you can't remember them?
Yeah.
That's the trick.
That might be the trick. So let's start with the other big guns, I suppose. Let's go to the other side of the coin. I've played Mario Odyssey.
Okay.
Whoa! What? Hold up.
Yeah.
Super Mario. You can
Super Mario!
so much more excited about Mario than Sonic, but that's just me.
Well,
It might not
probably
be just
rightly
me.
so.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be kind of awesome.
Of course it is.
It's just going to be another Mario Galaxy, essentially. You can't
Well-
really fail.
What's wrong with that?
Yes, honestly, yes, it is that. It is classic Mario formula, but with some hat mechanics.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know, bullet bills are a nothing now because you just hit them with your hat and become one.
I mean, that seemed like a problem, though, as we were saying when we saw it on E3, where it's like, he's always being a bullet. It's like, that seems to be that mechanic seems already overused, and they've only shown one part of this one level.
So here's the only thing that worries me about the hat mechanic is that it might end up feeling a little inconsistent, because it's also your attack now.
Yeah.
So there are certain enemies where I think like, oh, I want to be that Goomba, because I've seen Mario as a Goomba in like some of the material that's been out there. But most of the time, you just throw your hat at them and they die.
Well, it's when they have a hat, you have to knock their hat off, and then you can beat them, right? That's how that mechanic is gated.
I think that's maybe that might explain it, because I'm sure some of the bills you didn't have to hit twice; you only had to hit once, and you'd become the bill and then fly about. But it's a little unlike the other Mario games. You don't drop into a world and it's like, okay, here's star number 1. We're doing that now.
You do them whenever you like, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of random ones, or they're not stars anymore. They're moons now.
That's also what we were
So
worried about when they showed it to D3, where it's just like, does that make more of them inconsequential? Where it's like, oh, I just had to go to this place and there it was.
There's a few like that, yeah. So like when I was in the desert area, I did the classic bit that we've seen where
Dress up in the right uniform to go into the club.
Oh no! I think I saw someone get. I did see someone get an outfit, but I didn't. When I played it, I didn't figure out how. I didn't see that part.
Right.
But when I became a bullet, there were just a couple of areas you could get to where it's just like, oh, there just happens to be a moon up here, like on top of a pillar. So there's a lot scattered about, but there is a critical path that the game sort of guides you through. So when you enter the area, it goes, hey, you should probably go to this thing, and then you go up there, and then it's like. With some cool 2D Mario stuff thrown in there, just because, you become 2D Mario in NES graphics on the side of a pillar for no apparent reason.
Because it's awesome.
But whatever, it's cool. I'll roll with it, and then if you jump out of it, you turn into 3D Mario again, and then. Yes, you do a bit of that, and then you get to the top of this thing, and then you get the star it wanted you, or the moon, sorry, that it wanted you to get, and then that opens up a pathway to another part of the zone, which you then have to traverse in order to get to the next set of moons, effectively. And there was some fairly cool platformy stuff there with the hat and things that can throw the hat further than sort of like a chain thing. So throw your hat into this thing, and it then throws the hat a bit further, and then that will do something. But you've got to do that all whilst on a moving platform, and then dodge all this stuff that's coming at you. And if you don't do this stuff, then there's nothing to jump on. It was quite well done. That's all I mean by that.
Mario has got to the point where it's maybe too many death pits.
Yeah, death was fairly... But then death is more inconsequential now than it's ever been.
Sure.
Like you get there are checkpoints about the world now, like there are little flags.
Yeah, the flags.
And you just run over them, and it's like, this is where you're going to respawn. And there's quite a few of them.
Because it was the same thing that I thought once you got the galaxy, where it's just like there was so many. It was just like everything was black holes. There was just everywhere, all death pits. It was just like, this kind of sucks.
Right, because that in Mario 64 there weren't that many death pits.
I mean,
depending on the level.
edge of the world, basically, in Mario 64.
And it got worse as you went along for that, right?
Kind of, yeah. I definitely remember falling off what's the Big Little World or whatever. I remember falling off that quite a lot when I was too big.
I remember not liking that. That whole like
it was a cool idea, that one,
but not liking playing it.
That was the one where you got into from the hub castle, where it's like a mirror room, Hall of Mirrors room. Yeah, that was.
But then wasn't Little Big World? There were two pictures.
Yeah, Hall of Mirrors was the other ice world.
Oh, was it?
Because there were two pictures on the wall. If you jumped into the small one,
it was a perspective trick where they looked the same from the middle of the room, but then as you walked down the corridor, it was wider.
Man, that game was so good.
Yeah, so many unique ideas.
But yeah, I think like these modern 3D areas are just like too reliant on death hits, and it was a bit too. It was like too obvious in Galaxy because it was just a fucking. You were in space, so it was just like, here's a black hole, or it's just like. Whereas it's sometimes like if you think where it's like, oh, you fall into quicksand, it's like, okay, that sort of makes sense. I think in the context of a world.
And I think the main takeaway I have from this is that I think if you took Mario and they had horrible relations with Banjo-Kazooie, this comes out the other end. In that there is more of a collectathon to it, in that, because there's stuff just about the world. There's things you can get to just by crawling through little gaps, or sneaky little things you can find hidden away and stuff like that lead to something. So it has that stuff from Banjo, which Mario didn't necessarily have that much of. That was important anyway. You might find some coins.
Yeah, it was all about getting 100 coins to get the star for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now coins are like a currency. And each world...
One of two currencies.
Yeah, and each world has their own currency as well. And so that's how that kind of felt. And I saw quite a bit of the city, the new Donk stuff, which they just called the metro area.
Okay.
Is it not called new?
No, in the menu it was like the sand area or the metro area.
Okay.
So they're probably not the official names. Maybe it was just the demo text.
That sounds like it.
But Pauline and everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's got to be the part of the story, right?
Well, I
they've-
mean,
they've
And
removed, like,
all the
the-
references to Donkey Kong all over the place.
I mean, it introduced the metro area with like a close up of Pauline, and then you meet some guy fairly early on who says, "Hey, the mayor's in town somewhere," like implying that that's supposed to be the first thing you do is to try and find Pauline. But almost everyone I saw play never did that. They just found other stuff to do.
Yes. Sure.
And like there were a couple of like. There's definitely some instances about the place, as in you'll find
Yeah.
a way of
Separate
flying to a different
worlds,
area,
yeah.
and then it's almost like the weird challenges from Sunshine, but not. They're sort of themed to the area, but
Well, I
like,
did
they're still
see-
like challenges of some
I
kind.
did see some image that someone had posted where it did look very much more like a Sunshine one, where it's just like weird, brightly coloured polygons floating in space.
Someone did manage to get to one of those. Yeah, there was like, what? Okay, how are you in space? Like, how did you get what? How did you get there? Because there was one bit where it was in World where you flew above the clouds and you
Yeah,
found a
They
high
showed
rise.
that at E3.
Yeah, and which I thought was smart because then when you get back down, it does a sequence where you're like punching a hole in the cloud, and it's like, oh, okay, that's quite neat. You did that all in theme and stuff like that. But yeah, all of Mario's move set is there. You know, it plays and feels like you'd expect. It looks good. I'm not 100% sure it hits 1080p if we're being technical.
I
It looked a
don't
bit-
think it
it looked-
does it?
It looked
it?
a bit pixely in places, but you know, it's got that Mario Kart 8 sheen to everything.
Were you playing it? Oh, I guess you were playing it docked and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
fully docked system. I was playing with weirdly they were showing it with attached motion controllers, like the Joy-Cons, but ungripped.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's because they want you to be able to do the hat thing
Flicking
easier, I
thing,
guess.
Yeah, there are certain flicky actions which there doesn't seem to be a button equivalent for, which I'm not 100% sure. I think was the smartest idea, but
I think there might be a button equivalent. I think they just want you. I think they're like it's easier with motion controls because the
Maybe.
button you have to like hold it and.
I found it kind of awkward to be honest. But like
Well, of course,
Yeah.
it's motion controls.
Yeah. Match.
and it was specifically the instructions say it's a flick to the left to do the like throw the hat around you in a circle thing to take out groups of enemies.
Well, apparently, I mean, people mentioned it at E3, but apparently, the people running the demo stations didn't necessarily explain what the exact motion was very well. Like, it's not necessarily meant to just be a flick. It's like you have to twist, like move your hand in a specific way.
So the guy at my station was offering zero help at all.
Naturally,
He looked like he didn't want to be there.
it's Europe.
Whereas, well, the other guy in the Nintendo, like on the stand next to, like there was a guy per every two kiosks basically, and so
Right.
the guy on the other two kiosks in front of us was giving a lot of help, like going, "Hey, you might want to try doing that thing. It's really cool. Like, go speak to that musician over there. It's something to do with the musicians. Like, you find a random trumpeter on top of a building, going, "Hey, I like playing up here. There's no audience." So yeah, there's stuff going on. That game seems cool.
Sweet. Well, I mean, probably finished Zelda just in time to start playing Mario. All I need is
Yeah.
Zelda is Nintendo Classics.
Yep, that's the year of the Ninty Classics.
Excellent. And then hopefully Red Dead will come out.
Woo.
Except it won't. As we previously discussed.
Not this year. No,
No.
but I'll probably
No.
be playing Mario until the end of the year. When does it come out?
October, I think, early October.
Shit, that's what, like in like a couple of weeks?
Oh
or
no,
something?
sorry, late night. Yeah, it's probably like the 20th of October. I've got in my head, so not too far away.
Sweet. Like a month's time? Man. I probably will.
That's right.
I
Is that right?
probably will be able to segue from one to the other. Oh, awesome. Okay, well I know what I'm playing next.
Yep, it seems good.
Right, cool.
I know it's already out, but I did play a tiny bit of Mario and Rabbids at the Ubisoft stand. They did have it at the Nintendo stand, but the line was a lot longer there. So we went to the Ubisoft stand and said, "Oh, there's just kiosks. Let's just go."
Oh, easy.
That game seems good. I played one of the challenge levels. Well, I watched Jeremy play the challenge level first, and most of the Nintendo staff then say, "Yeah, none of us managed to crack this one." And it's
Oh,
like,
really?
"Oh, well, we picked a hard one. It's challenge 1, and it's marked very easy." Are you sure about that? So we tried it, and we failed it the first time. And then I picked it up and aced it the second time. Like, did it perfectly with a turn to spare. It was like a can you defeat all these enemies within 3 turns? And it's like, yeah, I've done it in 2, bitches. And yeah,
Well, I'm sure like that's really the only option. If you can't do it in the number of turns it says, you can only do it one faster.
yeah, bro, you
in
definitely
a free
can't.
turn.
Oh yeah, you can't do it in one because enemies spawn after the more enemies spawn after the first turn.
Yeah.
It's like a scripted thing. But the mechanics in that seem fine. It's like it is XCOM, but it's like a 3 action system. But you can only do. You have a move action, you have a shot action, and you have a special of some kind, and you can choose to do all 3 or any combination of them each turn. You can't do like multiple moves, for instance, or you can't do multiple shots.
So you can't do. Oh, so you can't do 2 moves and no shot like in XCOM.
No. You can do one of each, or choose to do none of them. If you know what I mean. You can like, because for instance, some of the moves are on cooldowns, so it might make sense not to fire your special one of your special abilities this turn. For instance, even though the challenge was pretty easy, the styling and presentation seems pretty solid. So yeah, but that game's out. So nah, it seems good.
It's good to have that as an option. Yeah, when you run out of Switch games, just play another good one.
What other big stuff did we try? Also at the Ubisoft stand, I have played some Far Cry 5.
Oh, yeah?
Because Kipper's wanted to do that. I'll be honest with you, I don't really care. But Kipper's wanted to do it because I don't even know. I'm not sure he's played the other Far Cries. I think he just wanted to play it because he thought it looked interesting. I think this is a Far Cry game.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing because I haven't played 3 or 4 either. So
3 was really good at the time.
So it's not a terrible looking game. It's not a terrible feeling game. The demo I think was somewhat poorly constructed because it puts you in that bit that we saw in the E3 stuff.
Yeah.
Like where it's there's something going on in front of you. You can deal with it in some ways. Of course, I didn't know what the controls bloody were, so I faffed around and accidentally threw a grenade at something, and that alerted everyone to where I was. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm just getting into a firefight, but I don't have a gun. How do I get a gun? What's the control to get a gun? Oh, somehow I've got a rifle. Okay, now I'm shooting dudes like I'm playing a shooter. And so that all seems fairly normal. Couldn't really work out how to use it, but like my buddy abilities or anything like that. I had the dog because of course I picked the dog. I couldn't quite figure out how to use him properly. And then after you've done that, the demo was like, all right, it's open world. Go do something. And it's like, do something where? I don't appear to have access to a map. So I just got in a giant truck that happened to be there, drove somewhere. Long story short, I found another fight, found a character, had a quick chat, found a plane, and then was like, oh, yeah, I'm getting in this plane. Demo ends. Damn it! I just about got to the cool stuff before the game actually ended. I mean, it seems fine. I can't really judge it from that playthrough, but it seemed well made, jank free.
Well,
from what I saw,
relatively jank free.
Yeah,
cool.
For an open world game, nothing broke during the short ass demo.
Yeah,
so that's probably pretty good for an open world game.
And I mean, a lot of the show suffered from classic bad TV setups. Like, as in they just took a TV out of a box and didn't bother to configure it properly. But I think the Far Cry one was actually one of the slightly better ones because I don't think they had that horrible motion smoothing on it, from what I remember. So yeah, kudos for turning that rubbish off. It was a real pain. Like, so much had that running. Like, I didn't play it, but like I saw a bit of Destiny 2 being played because they were running a massive stand, courtesy of Virgin Media, and they had all the frame smoothing on the tellies turned on, and it makes that game look like garbage. Like moving super jerkily and super smoothly, and a combination of the two at the same time. It's like, oh no, that has to be turned off. It's just a bad way of showing that game. Like, but I do wonder if like most people, like regular ass people who aren't me and don't go toying with TV settings every time I get one.
Those regular ass people.
Yeah. Or just regular people. Maybe not regular ass people. Whether do people just leave that stuff on and then play games with that on, and so they just don't bat an eyelid at it, even though
they don't even notice. Yeah, standard. But then I don't know. People are strange. Like, I don't understand people. people who listen to music through their smartphone speaker.
No, I don't get that either.
Are they fucking nuts? My flatmate walks around the flat like cooking and everything, just listening to music, pop music at the most tinniest possible quality. Anyway.
It's like, let's get a speaker in these rooms.
Well, I have the opposite problem
yeah.
with we've got a portable little Bose speaker thing that has like iPod attachment, or it can use an auxiliary cable. And I plugged my one in, my not iPod, my Sony Walkman into it, and I'm like, Jesus, the bass on this thing is fucking ridiculous, but it doesn't actually have any options to change it. It's just like it's maximum bass constantly, and I'm like, how can you possibly listen to this?
That is annoying when that happens. Sometimes that happens with headphones as well, cheap headphones. Well, not cheap, but sort of I don't know, headphones that are trying to impress with bass, like Beats headphones and stuff.
Right, I get you. Yeah, a lot of people say that the Beats phones are quite tuned to be bassy. I suppose hopefully on a lot of devices you can EQ that down if you really care about it. But
yeah, I think there's a range of Beats headphones. I think that there are some decent ones, decent sound ones.
But yeah, I remember when at least when they first came out, that was one of the general. But these sound so hip hop, dog. No.
I'm sure it might depend on like if you're only listening to certain kinds of music for it. It probably does help.
Yeah. Like the EQ is set up for Dr. Dre
for
tracks.
Dre tracks.
You need to buy my music to enjoy these headphones. He's a genius. What else did we do? I'm trying to figure out big titles. Didn't really do a lot else at the Ubisoft stand. That was what we did there. Over at Xbox, I played quite a few things. So Forza 7, it's a good looking game. We're not convinced it was running on Xbox One X though. I think we were playing the regular version, but it's still a pretty good looking game. It was a sort of Dubai sandy sort of street track, which was quite cool. On a proper wheel setup and nice screens, properly configured this time.
So you could so let me get it straight. You could just, with your like 1080 GTX or whatever, you could just, and wheel and stuff, you could just get the PC version, right? And just smash it, and then you wouldn't need an Xbox One X.
I don't need an
X
experience. No, not in the case of Forza. No, it was.
Well,
I would be just
assuming
fine.
the Windows 10 version works well.
Yeah, because there was some stuff about Forza 3 Forza Horizon 3 that wasn't apparently so hot on PC.
Yeah, but this is turn 10 or whatever. This
is proper turn 10 this time. Yeah. So this game in theory would have been 100% tuned for 4K and 60 frames. And,
for sure.
And full on HDR. It's worth mentioning, actually. I don't think, weirdly, as much as both Sony and Microsoft tout 4K HDR, I don't think there was any real screens that were both 4K and HDR on show anywhere. The Microsoft booth had a couple of demo reel screens that were just playing videos, and those were definitely 4K HDR. You could tell the difference, and it's like, wow, okay. HDR is really very bright and very dark at the same time. That's really quite impressive.
HDR
and
cool.
When you're standing as a couple of feet away from them, as we were, 4K is pretty goddamn impressive.
Yeah.
Shame they were just videos. It wasn't actually running on real hardware, but it's still the 4K HDR. That's a thing. Forza 7 plays. I don't think the demo was particular, as usual with these things. The demo is not a very good indication of how you'd play that game. I played this Dubai track, had the new Porsche in it, which, as it turns out, with most of the assists still on, was really, really difficult to drive. So it's maybe that's quite an advanced car, as it turns out, in the game.
With 911, so they are
the
really
911
aren't they?
RS GT-RS2 or something.
They are quite hard to drive in general, because they're rear-engined, right?
I just found it really difficult to steer. There were I was getting understeer. I wasn't really getting oversteer. Weirdly, for something you'd think would happen with the engine out the back. But yeah, I had a really hard time controlling that thing. It could have been the wheel setup or the configuration of it, because it was one of those ridiculous 270-degree wheels. So maybe that wasn't set up particularly well. But I think Forza 7's going to be a Forza game, so I think we're all right. The one thing they need to do in my eyes is, like, if they add VR support to that thing, then the PC version might be perfect. You know?
Yeah, and it needs LCD sound system on the menu as well.
Yeah! I got no feel for whether the game has, like, licensed music in it.
Just thinking back to Forza 2 days. There is a new LCD sound system album, but they're not like super bangers quite like that. Well, I guess kind of are.
It wasn't really a banger in Forza 2, was it? It was just sort of...
Well, it was Daft Punkers playing at my house, wasn't it?
Was it?
I thought that was on the menu. Maybe I'm wrong.
One of those games, I remember it.
Was it that one? Oh, I've got a different one in my head for some reason. Maybe it's just the default LCD sound system song that's in my head.
The one that gets...
But really, it's not that one.
The one that's in my head all the time at the moment is the old North American Scum. You know,
I don't know that one.
From that, anyway, never mind. You will know
the one in my head is the one that just goes ma 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 ma. The beats on repeat.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, that's my default LCD sound.
Cool.
Yeah, Forza 7 seems good. Played some Cuphead.
Comes
out very soon.
Did you get past the tutorial?
So it was sort of like just dropped. It was already running, so I don't know quite where in the game it was. But there was a level we tried that we didn't get very far through at all, because that game is hard as balls. Like, it's just it's super difficult, like, and very unforgiving. Like, the level, like, I think most levels force you to basically run it in one. It's like, if you died, it doesn't count. You got to do it again.
All right, so it's like a sort of Super Meat Boy type challenge.
Kinda, yeah. Doesn't seem to be checkpoints as far as I can tell anywhere in it. So we had a real difficulty playing this sort of funhouse level, where the idea is basically there are like cartoon cars going down one edge that are indestructible. So you have to jump and then jump again on a sort of gravity switch card that changes which side of the level you're on. So you switch to the ceiling, and then there's stuff there that you still have to destroy, otherwise you're going to get hurt. All the time you're supposed to be trying to progress, like you have to be moving forward whilst trying to destroy this stuff. Otherwise you're not going to make any ground and you're going to be stuck there forever. And then occasionally the cars swap sides, so you have to, I'm going to have to swap down to the bottom side and then destroy some stuff and try and run forward. That was difficult enough. But then you get to a sort of wall made of mouths that's then spitting both the cars and lip bullets at you, and you're supposed to be shooting the eye in the middle of it, and that was tricky. And then you got a bit further, and then you start getting like star guns that are shooting in 4 directions whilst you're trying to get around them for it being the gravity. It's just super hard. But it all looks amazing. Like that art style and how it all animates and how it all flows. It's like it's a weird mix of like the frame rate of the animation is like old school, so it's like 30 or less, something like that. The sort of janky look to it of old animation is there, but all the objects in the world still move at a sprightly 60. I suppose to make it a bit easier to see what's going on. So there's a little bit of like a weird disconnect there in how some of it looks, but damn, there's a looker. These things animate amazingly. So the other thing we tried was like a boss fight against like a clown, and I think we did manage to get that eventually. We were playing in co-op with a random, and we had to put it in simple mode. It gave you the option of like, do you want to play the simple version or the regular version? And it's like, what are you trying to say, game? Are you trying to say we're simple? Because we only just managed to scrape through the bloody simple mode.
Yeah.
Like after several attempts. It's really, really hard. But a very, very good looking game. And it finally comes out in like a couple of days. Also at the Xbox booth, I played something called Huntdown, which seems to be like a retro 2D pixel art run and gun. A bit like Contra, I suppose, is the easiest comparison. Yeah, you run around, you pick up guns, you've got health. Guns have limited ammo. You can duck behind cover.
Mhm.
Seemed alright. Very retro. Did exactly what it said on the tin. Let's get on to another biggie. The last thing we did at the Xbox booth. Sea of Thieves.
Oh, do
I
you
have
get to play
played
it all together?
I played a half hour. What was it? I forget how many there were. There was, I think it was 12 people demo, a half hour, 12-person demo, with 3 teams of 4 basically being put into the world. And that game is a beautiful mess. That is the only way to describe it. It is mad and manic, and I don't know how anyone will get anything done in it. Because it's, but admittedly, because I was playing with 3 other randoms, I wasn't playing with Kips and Jam on that one.
Right,
They got
so
put
you
into
weren't,
a different group.
coordinated.
No, but everyone had headsets, and everyone was, there was a chat channel between your team, so it was well organized in that respect. And you had a guide from Rare who had a headset on as well, and was trying to describe some mechanics if we couldn't figure it out. But the very first thing we did is we raised the anchor, the boat started moving, it hit something, boat gets a massive leak immediately.
Starts
So
sinking.
we're slowly floating out to sea in a sinking boat. And we're like, oh god, what do we do? Right, so everyone has a bucket. So we're starting to bucket water out on the side of this boat. And then after a while, someone
Bailing.
finds some wood and goes, bailing, that's the word. And then we find then we go underwater and it's like, wait, no, I think we've got a definite leak down here. So someone has to go get some wood and then patch it up while the other players are bailing water out. Meanwhile, one of our other guys is just up on deck trying to figure out how to sail the boat. Where are we going? How are we doing this thing? And we're all panicking, and one guy is just yeah, I'm not worried. And figured out and tries to figure out where we're going, which we sort of did, in fairness. So then we had to figure out how to actually get the sails down. You have to put the sails down, and you have to angle them into the wind. And there's 2 sets of sails on the boat, so you probably need 2 people to go sort that out.
Awesome.
And then you actually start sailing, and then you've probably got a bit of downtime, hopefully, if all's good. So you can get your accordion out and start playing that, which is funny in itself. Just have everyone standing around going or drinking grog. There's a grog canister under deck, so you can just have some beer in front of everyone.
Does that affect you in any way? Or?
Yeah, you get a little bit wobbly.
Nice.
It was at this point that we finally came across an island, but we couldn't figure out how to stop the boat properly, so we just rammed it into the island, and then causing it to get a great many more leaks, which we had to sort out. And again, the captain just buggers off, just starts exploring the island again. You guys got this, right? And just starts wandering around the island, in which, unbeknownst to us, he then eventually finds a treasure chest after we've all sorted the boat out and have climbed onto the island and have all split up and got lost. So he's like, I've got a treasure chest, I'm coming back to the boat. And everyone's they're like, I can't see the boat. Where is the boat now? I don't know how to get to the boat. I'm lost. It's like, you can see a pier, right? And I'm like, yeah, you were over that way. So I get on the pier and I walk that way. And then we discover that the boat's moving. Why is the boat moving? Oh, that's not our boat.
What?
Turns out the other team was there as well.
Ah.
So then we end up in a ridiculous fight between the 2 boats, and us trying to get to a boat that we can use for starters, and then trying to have a fight on the boats, which is really difficult as it turns out, because you're supposed to be getting cannonballs and loading the cannons to fire them, and then you fire them at the boats, and then they do quite a lot of damage per shot, stuff like that. Or you can just be like me and be like, I'm not anywhere near any of the boats, so I'm just going to swim towards this one and see if I can climb on board, which I did. And then immediately got killed by someone with a blunderbuss. Just turned around and go bang. It's like, oh, all right. And then when everyone was after a while, you go to the ferry of the damned, which is basically a holding area while you. It's just a ghost boat, so you can't really see anything, but you're just sort of hanging about until the respawn timer basically runs out, and then you can boost back in, and that'll take you back to your boat. Basically, you'll just end up on your boat again. So I just end up spawning back in, and of course we're in the middle of a massive fight at that point between the 2 boats. Everything's going very badly. Bang, bang, bang. Both boats sink. It's like everybody dies. So you have to then talk to the mermaid to be like, "Can I have another boat?" And it puts you somewhere else on the map. Which we then immediately like, right, let's get sailing again. And we immediately run into the same team again. Have another fight. Everybody dies. Both boats sink. It's like we found a treasure chest and lost it at sea. Basically, is the entire plot of this story. Like we got nothing done in a whole half hour of game time. But it was a right laugh.
Sounds great.
My problem, so my immediate concern with this is like, is this all the game is?
Right.
Just this madness constantly. Because we didn't actually get to an island. We didn't actually really have a fight with anything. We didn't actually really find anything of interest. We didn't do anything with like the instructions on the card or anything. We just sort of went to a thing, found some people, everybody died. But it was, yeah, as I said, it was a beautiful mess of a 30-minute demo. To the point where when it stopped, no one from every demo I've seen, nobody wants to stop when that demo ends. It's just like, but we didn't achieve anything.
Well, that's probably why. It's not necessarily because they were so enthralled by the game. It's because they was like, what? We didn't even do anything. The demo was clearly not long enough because we didn't actually achieve any goals.
I think if you played it with players and tried to be coordinated, you could actually get stuff done. But like when nobody knows what's going on and everyone just wants to dick about, it is. Even that's a ridiculous amount of fun. There was a moment where I was watching Kips and Jeremy play, and like Kips just, stands in front of the helmsman playing the accordion, and the guy's just like, "Why is that guy's crotch in my face?" Like, classic.
Classic killers with you.
Yep. It's a pretty funny game. Kind of hype, but not out until next year. But there will be a PC version.
Yeah.
So
that'll be the one, right?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
And that was also demoed on regular Xboxes, not the X. So it was a solid 30 at all times. It didn't drop. Some good looking water, has to be said.
Well, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that was a great deal of fun. Enjoyed that a lot. Speaking of stuff I enjoyed a whole great deal, let's talk about some VR stuff.
Sweet. What's going on in VR anyway?
I played a couple. Really... I would say a lot is moving on. There's like, PlayStation are obviously pushing a few more games than most people in VR. So Kippers has played a bit of Bravo Team, which is super massive.
That kind of generic ass looking military shooting.
Yeah, and to all intents and purposes, that's pretty accurate. It is a generic military shooter, but because it's been done in VR with movement and things like that, it kind of held some level of what's the word I'm looking for? It held Kip's interest anyway for the demo.
Well, yeah, but that's the trouble. It's just like it's a VR experience, not necessarily an actual game.
Well, you had freedom of movement to some degree. Like you would be like, there's a place you can go to or a cover point you can go to, press a button and it'll take you there.
Yeah, but it's just like you've done that once and then that's it.
I gave you options to move around because it's like competitive, right? It's like or at least they will have a competitive element in the final version. But
yeah, that still doesn't make it a big game in any way.
No, I guess not. It's hard to tell what that will be, but they were playing with the gun attachment thing that they've had in Farpoint, I think it was, and that feels pretty good, apparently. He also played GT Sport with VR, and he was like, oh, okay, yeah, so the visuals take a bit of a downgrade in the VR mode, but he wasn't expecting to have a bit of VR sickness as a result of driving a car. But you still expect the G-forces, as it turns out. Yeah. Okay. And so it feels a bit weird. Doing driving games in VR, which I'm yet to still do. I still haven't done that. What I ended up doing was I played Superhot VR on a PSVR.
Hot.
So admittedly not a new game, but it was my first. I've never played Superhot or Superhot VR, and I've only really played PSVR for Battlezone, so I hadn't used the Move controllers in VR. So the good news is that Superhot VR is rad.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
it's really fun.
I mean,
like,
Superhot was
really
always
hard.
awesome.
Pretty hard, in fairness.
Yeah. You'd think it'd be
and-
easy if you don't move, everything
Yeah.
freezes, but no.
It turns out, you're getting so rushed that it's actually pretty tricky. Like the game is like the demo at least was split into like a series of rooms, and you had to do the entire sequence. If you died, then you went back to the start of the sequence and had to do the lot again, which then actually made like highlights just how difficult getting each sequence is right, because you'd have a good run, and then the next time you'd just have a really bad run for some reason, like you'd misthrow something, and it's like, oh god, now I'm in trouble. I did find like throwing items was really quite difficult in the VR thing, because you're supposed to hold the top button on the move controller and then thrust your hand towards and release at the right time. But it felt really difficult to get it to actually go in the direction you wanted.
Right.
Like I'm not quite throwing it at that guy. Although I did have a couple of moments where I tried to throw an ashtray at a guy and it stopped a bullet in the air, which was like, oh yeah, hell yeah! I just threw an ashtray and stopped a bullet. That's cool. And the punching mechanics for me didn't work so great. As in, like, the detection of whether you were actually punching a guy in the face sometimes didn't feel like it had worked. Like, I felt my hand was just going through them on occasion.
Right.
And maybe that's just me not learning the right action to make it detect that was a thing. So that was some of the weekends. But the picking up a gun out of the air, then turning to a guy, shooting him in the face, shooting his mate in the face with a gun in the other hand, and then throwing the guns to either side of you like a badass. That feels really good.
Yeah.
That feels really good. What I will say is that at least in that setting, the PSVR tracking was a bit crappy, especially on the move controllers. The headset was fine, but the move controllers occasionally didn't go where it felt like they should be going. So limitations of PSVR, at least in a demo setting, it didn't seem
right. So
good.
It wasn't the VR itself; it was the motion stuff.
Yeah. So the headset seemed fine.
Hmm.
And I've used PSVR before, so it has it's not massively high res, and all those usual stuff apply. But the tracking of the headset was fine.
It's running on two different systems, isn't it? Because the headset's internal and the move controllers is the camera.
Well, they're both sort of camera driven. That's why the headset has all those blue lights on it.
Yeah, I guess, but not quite in the same way. Move controller is just like one big ball.
Yeah, so the move controllers rely a lot more on the internal accelerometers to get their positioning and stuff like that. But I felt like it was the ball that was being lost. Like there were moments where
did lose it, like you moved your hand in a specific way that obscured it.
Yeah, so I figured out at one point that you can actually duck down in Superhot behind like a couch or something at one point. It's like, oh no, actually this is really useful. I can duck down, grab an item, and then pop up to throw it at the right time. And so that was cool. But then I ducked down a couple of times, and my hand would stay floating in the sky where I just was. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure my hand's not up there. I can't grab this thing in front of me because it now thinks my hand is 10 foot tall. So that was a bit weird. So I imagine playing Superhot VR on a proper kit, like an Oculus or a Vive, must be really awesome. So anyway, that's not really news. That's a game that's been out for a while.
It's cool though. It is news to have experienced it in like VR and stuff.
Yeah, it's neat. It makes me want to try it on a proper kit for sure. Let's say a proper kit. PSVR is a proper kit, but like a Rift.
Yeah,
Something with better hand tracking. So the other thing I did several times, and might be the most fun thing I played at all of EGX, was called Shooty Fruity.
Okay.
And it's an Oculus Rift. It's a VR shooting gallery, effectively, that's being developed for all of the VR headsets, including PSVR and the Rift. I was playing on a Rift, so this was my first time using one of the, I guess the top spec VR headsets, and boy, is the jump in quality noticeable. Like it really is compared to the PSVR. The resolution jump is super noticeable. and the fidelity of those Oculus Touch controllers, like I don't know how that can get much better. It was really, really good.
Not tried the Oculus Touch. I really want to.
Yeah, I mean the fidelity of the movement was just spot on. I didn't feel anything wrong with that at all at any point. The only problem I sort of have with all of the headsets is my need to wear glasses.
Right.
Because weirdly, even though that thing, I thought I'd be fine without them. Like, so that thing's right in front of my face, right? And I thought, like, oh, I don't have a focal distance problem when things are right that far in front of my head.
Mm.
But weirdly, my eyes have the same problem focusing on stuff in the distance. In the headset, as in it's not a focal problem for me, it's like a double vision problem because of my stupid eyes. I have the exact same problem in VR that I do in real life. So I have to wear my glasses, but then if I wear my glasses, then you get quite a lot of glare from the brightness of the screen sort of bouncing around the lens, I suppose.
Mm.
And they fog up quite a bit for a while. So I don't think there's particularly an ideal way for me to have a VR headset at the moment, unless I went contact, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a shame.
So they they definitely don't fit inside like.
Well, they did. They fit incredibly snugly, in fact, to the point where when I took the Rift headset off, the glasses were still there. Like they were just right in place.
Right.
Like so they fit, but like only just. So yeah, that's a bit of a bummer for me, I suppose. But you know, you get over it, you get through it, and playing the game. And like again, it's one of those games I just did not want to stop playing because it's so stupid. You're basically a checkout clerk. Like, so you have to beat food across a scanner, and that builds up a meter below you that leads to you getting better and better guns. So you're shooting attacking fruit that are coming towards your checkout with guns that are traveling along a conveyor belt above your head. So you have to grab them off this conveyor belt and then shoot the thing. Then they run out of ammo, get rid of them, and then like hope another gun comes around whilst you're scanning checkout food. To unlock better guns as the waves get more and more intense. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's so stupid. But
how'd they come up with that?
I guess it's the classic thing, right? It's like, how do we make a shooting gallery more interesting? We'll make you do something else at the same time.
Right.
And it totally works. Totally works. I don't think I've had a what's the word? A more convincing argument that VR is a thing
than this.
Yeah, I don't know. I even though I played Superhot, this was the most fun I've had.
But
like,
again, it's just like a tiny thing.
I know.
Like,
I
it's
know
not like an actual game.
I know exactly what you mean. It is super diddy and it does its thing, but it does its thing so well.
Like the thing I've had the most fun in VR was one of the mini games in the Valve thing, you know, the Harrot, the one with the
archery thing.
Archery one, yeah. And of course there's nothing to that, but I mean, that was great. So it's the same thing, Zag. It's kind of annoying. The best things are like not
super tiny. Yeah.
Although you could consider Superhot like just one gimmick that's made into a decent game. So
well, sure.
But even that's like short.
The VR version is less than the actual normal version,
which is short in itself.
Yeah. But maybe the best games for VR will be like that, you know, like Res or whatever, you know, where they're just short games.
A bit of me wonders if they could do more with sort of VR, not necessarily in an AR sense, but you know, so you're looking at a physical something in the world, and you're just being what was it? I think Jamie played something called Moss, which I think we've seen a little bit of.
Thing that they showed at E3 with the mouse.
Yeah. So that's in VR, but it's not really a VR game.
Well, that's what we said at the time, where it's like, it's really just a way for you to have a top-down perspective on a world.
Yeah, but she honestly came away with it really loving it. It's like in the sense that I don't think that there was anything mechanically astounding about that game, but the VR element made it something special. Like just being able to look around the world as if you were observing it made a whole lot of difference.
Well, I think
so I wonder if that's what happened to why Lucky's Tale is weirdly being revisited, even though it's not being revisited in VR. Like, did Lucky's Tale, is that, because that's the same thing, right? That was like a VR
thing where you just played from a perspective and not
Yeah.
really VR. Logically, the what should be the like best game for VR or best type of game for VR will be stuff like The Room and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
just like a big puzzle that's just one thing that is in a physical space that you just have a lot of things you can poke at.
Yeah, a lot of things to manipulate. And I don't think that's been done yet, has it? Really, like a game of like that, like not to the
sure
complex.
It's been done, but not that. Yeah.
What, a
Maybe
game
not to
where you're like in a room trying to work out puzzles,
Yeah,
like room scale? They did that. The Rick and Morty games like that, isn't it? Virtual reality.
I mean, I guess you could consider like all of those kind of like Job Simulator and stuff. It, like theoretically, those are just basically puzzles.
I guess
just
yeah.
in the environment you're in.
But maybe nothing's done it as intricately and as impressively as, like, as you say, like Room. It was called The Room, wasn't it? On iOS did for that. Here's a box, break the box down thing. That would be, yeah, you're right. It would be super ideal for a VR game. But then I suppose you've got the Don't Talk or Everyone Explodes, which is sort of that.
That's not what it's called, but there's.
You don't talk.
Don't Talk and Nobody Explodes to be the opposite game.
What was it like?
Put on the headset and sit there in silence so no one dies.
Was it? It's just talk
Keep
or everyone
talking.
keep talking. That's it. Yeah. Don't talk or everyone explodes.
But even that doesn't have to be a VR game in any way either. You could just have, like, if we were doing it here, the people read the manual be sitting this way, and you'd be sitting in your PC, which is facing in the complete opposite direction.
Yeah, but you're in theory not allowed to see my screen, are you?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But-
You would be if you were sitting here like this, because unless you deliberately looked over there, that's not the direction you're looking.
But then, like, I guess the VR element makes that impossible, right? Because you could turn the monitor off. And...
But it doesn't necessarily have to be VR.
Mm.
I mean, manipulating the bomb in the VR environment is partially, but even then, that's not really that advanced. It's like you turn it over and you push the buttons, but I guess that's not even motion controlled, really.
Yeah,
You're just selecting a button and hitting a button.
I would like to try that though. Like, keep talking in a proper setting with the VR stuff. I think that would be neat. So that was my VR adventures for this time. Mm-hmm. As I said, it's kind of sold me on the high spec VR stuff. It's really good. But you're right. There needs to be some convincing content. God, what else? There's so much stuff. I think I've got the bulk of the main things I wanted to talk about out of the way. I mean, I played some indie stuff. Like Tyred, which is a ridiculous in development party game that is very much they're just experimenting with. You're a wheel, it rolls around. There's 4 of you. What games can we make out of this?
Okay.
How about a form of beer pong where you have to jump your wobbly tire into cups a long way away? Or how about like a battle royale where everyone's on a destroying platform and push each other off Mario Party style? Or what if we do a game where there's like a pole in the middle and you have to try and loop your tire over it whilst trying to stop the other players from doing so? It's very experimental. Clearly very early. But the developers were having a whale of a time showing it.
Clearly.
So it was kind of fun just to feed off their enthusiasm, more than anything. What else did we see? Apex Racing is worth mentioning, just because I really like the idea of what they're doing. So imagine if the style of virtual racing had never gone away. That sort of low poly, no texture look.
Yeah.
The old Sega arcade
the sort
look.
of AM2 look, or
Yeah. So Apex Racing is that.
Amazing.
It's an amazing idea, and they nail the look absolutely. Shame it handles like garbage.
Oh.
And I really didn't like how that game felt to play. And it seems like if you're playing like the it wasn't made clear on the demo, but like there are hard cars and easy cars, and if you play a hard car, like it's just spins out every time you try and take a turn, and if it spins out and you're traveling at speed, then you crash, and you crash for ages before it puts you back on the track. So it's, I like there's an element to it that I think they perhaps haven't nailed, in that all the cars are very slidey. Like, you don't just turn around a corner, you're like permanently drifting. Right. And I think you could make a game of that. Like, I think you could make an interesting racing game where you're just drifting the entire time around every turn.
Drifty. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about managing drift and stuff like that, and that could be really interesting. I think it would fit this style really well. But I don't think they landed it, unfortunately.
Damn it!
So we'll see how that comes out. I think that's a while away, development-wise. So there's still time for them to fix that up. But I really love the idea.
Yeah, the art style, genius.
Yeah, the look and even the sound, how it sounds a bit crappy as well, like intentionally. You can tell that's like they're using sort of some lo-fi sounds in places, and they're trying to do what the old Model 1 games did, which was like we don't really have texture effects here. We've got to model everything in polygons somehow.
Yeah. Like
even the smoke and stuff, it's just like a big sort of diamond that appears out the back of things. And then one of the devs came up and basically, I basically said to him, "He's like, yeah, I love the style." He's like, "Hey, did you know there's actually more detail on these cars than there was in the original Gran Turismo?" And I'm like, "Get out of town!" It's just, I don't believe that for a second. Maybe there's actually more polys on these. I don't know.
To be fair, Gran Turismo was a long time ago.
Yeah, sure.
They probably weren't that great high poly.
No, probably not. They probably masked it with textures.
They just had textures over it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of fun. Octahedron made its return. We last talked about that back in 2014, I think, where I saw it at the Left Field collection.
How's it doing?
It's nearly out. And it seems like basically the same game I played then, but it's now got a whole lot more levels and stuff built into it. And it's basically a sort of like a puzzle platformer, where the gimmick is you create platforms under your feet to hover for a bit. And then there's stuff where you can use the platforms to as you're walking on them to sort of damage things or protect you from things that will jump up from the floor and stuff like that. It's very neon. It strays away from using words as much as possible, and it has a nice thumping techno-y soundtrack. I really like. I loved the vibe when I first played it, but that vibe has only just been sort of like just enhanced, and it's like I really like the feel of that game. It's a nice world to put a set of headphones in and just sit really close to a screen to play. It's a good demo game, actually. It works really well on the show floor. So that's coming out soon. It's finally back. What else did I play? A very early development version of something called Yatucan, or it's either Yatucan or Yatucan.
Yucatan, as in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico.
That would make a lot of sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Given that this game appears to be about Mexican skulls telling you to drive a neon car in space.
Okay.
I guess that's where Yatucan falls apart a little bit.
Right. But, okay.
So it's like a challenge, a racing challenge game where there's like you're driving your car and you've got to go through these obstacle courses to try and get to the end before the time runs out. But it's sort of, there's gravity near the track, but if you fly away from the track, or take a jump, there's no gravity at all. And then a bit like the San Francisco Rush 2097 or whatever, it's 2049 or something.
2049, yeah.
You have you don't have air control, but you can twist yourself in the air to try and land on the track. So that means you could actually take off from a bit of track, and then the next bit of track is actually on the ceiling, so you've got to twist around ready to land on it. And although it was very early, and it's very much work in progress, and he's just toying with ideas at the moment, it had a real interesting, the neon Mexican style with punk rock music. None of those elements feel like they should go together.
No, it's quite a
but
mix.
but it kind of worked. I kind of dug it. But yeah, very early. It'd be nice to see where that goes. Yeah, that was a fun time. I'm sure there's plenty more. Like Forgotten Anne or Forgotten Alice or something was there, which is a game that a friend of the show Eddie has told me about. It's sort of an anime narrative game. I played a bit of Lego Ninjago, which is a Lego game.
Standard.
Yeah, pretty much. Although they seem to be nicking the animation style from the movies a little bit.
Well, there's a Ninjago movie, isn't there?
Yeah,
it
so
must
it's,
be
well, yeah,
tying
it's
into
that. It's the Ninjago movie video game.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're nicking that sort of janky art, that like stop motion animation style, which is neat. Yeah, that might be it. Because we specifically didn't do Call of Duty this year because they've already had the beta and stuff like that. So and while I'm interested in that game and I didn't play the beta, I don't want to go in one of those queues. The Call of Duty queue is insane. And in fairness, when we first started queuing for Sea of Thieves, an Xbox employee came up to us and was like, "Do you realise this is about a 5-hour queue?" And we're like, "What?
For Sea
really?"
of Thieves?
Well, it's because the demo was really long. It was like a half hour. They could only do 12 people every half hour.
Right.
So what looks like a not too bad queue was actually ridiculous.
Right.
So we came back later when we did that.
Okay.
When it wasn't so, we snuck in at the end of the day, and they were like, could you sneak a few more people in? And they were like, yeah.
Yeah, go on. Oh, it sounded like that was a highlight.
Yeah, definitely. I became way more interested in that game than I was going in.
And Rare's got to do something good at some point, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had something that wasn't a Kinect game.
Yeah.
Because was it the last thing they put out was that new Kinect Sports, wasn't it? I think. I don't think they've done anything since then.
Apart from
so now we have this.
Rare Replay, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I guess that doesn't really count, I suppose.
No, I guess they put it together.
Yeah, so a fun time was had. Oh yeah, there were some other indie games like Jalopy as well, and Blockships. Blockships is worth mentioning. That was good fun. It's a 4-player couch competitive game set in 2D space, but you're a square to begin with, and you have to protect your core. So you start as a core, but there are blocks floating around that are bits of ship, and you can attach them to your ship, but they sort of attach in square formation and the orientation that they attach. So say you pick up a gun piece and it's facing upwards, and where it attaches to you, that gun piece has to always face upwards. You can't rotate. So you've built a ship that can fire upwards, and it's like, okay, now I need to maneuver myself to be able to shoot upwards to destroy enemy pieces and eventually their core. But there are other bits where you can just bits, like just a square block. So you can use that as either shielding or as a ramming device. And there are other, but if you pick up too many blocks, then your ship runs out of power and you don't really move. So you have to eject pieces to try and speed yourself up again. Otherwise, you're a sitting duck. And all of this is happening on the fly with 4 players all at once, trying to build ships and then trying to destroy each other with the pieces. And at least there's some very hilarious moments where it's like, oh god, I've got a gun that I accidentally built a ship with a gun that faced my core, so I fired it and blew myself up. So that can happen. You can like you can't really push the blocks to get them in the orientation you want, so you're kind of stuck with what's floating about beside you. So there can be some fun where it's like, I can't make the gun face the right way, so I can't shoot back. Oh, but there's a block I could just put on the front of my ship. Ramming speed, and I won a few rounds doing that, just running into people. It's a fun little game. Worth checking out if you're into your sort of couch competitive madness. I'm going to stop talking. That was EGX.
EGX.
I played a lot of stuff. It was good.
Cool. Well, that substitutes for our news section. Yeah. Sounds like there's some really cool stuff coming up. Can't wait to play Mario personally, but there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely, in terms of like sheer quality, Mario is right up there.
Okay. So now we have 15 minutes for the rest of the podcast. No.
Oh shit, really?
Well,
Did I
check out the
talk for that
time.
long?
You not notice it's 9:45.
No, I did
Right.
not.
Right, Zeg, what have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing a bunch of new stuff, which is helpful for this 15 minutes. Firstly, I guess we just mentioned, even though we don't have time to, just to finish the story on the podcast, that the Rocket League Giant Bomb Community Tournament final happened and we won. So good times.
Hey!
Winner! What's the prize? What do you get?
Well, that's completely unknown. Apparently, both teams might get like subscription time for Giant Bomb. So
No, that's
that'll
cool.
be
That's
something at
nice.
least. But apparently, maybe we might be getting some kind of physical something, depending on whether
They can ship it.
whether addresses
to
can
Europe,
get
yeah.
sorted out and that kind of stuff.
Given that you're a European team.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see about that. May or may not happen. Don't actually know.
Was it close?
Not particularly.
No. Yeah.
We had a bad first game where we lost,
Yeah.
but then it was just like we won all the other ones. And I got a hat trick in the last game. So good.
Nice.
Good times.
I
Yeah.
played the laggiest Rocket League match I've ever played at EGX.
Somehow.
And it was on two machines that were right next to each other.
It was a real bad lad.
It was the worst. It was absolutely the worst. It became a game not of skill, of lag management.
Yep.
Apparently, which Kips and I are very good at.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Or at least a lot better than the other two people were that we played against.
yes, it's definitely a skill.
Was there any effect from the Europe lag in the final?
No, it was. We did practice slightly beforehand on American servers to slightly get used, even though we only got like 2 games of practicing on American servers because everyone was getting ready, had to go and eat food and other things. But yeah, we did practice a little bit on the American servers, but it wasn't too bad, and it's not that bad once you actually get used to it. In Rocket League, I think Rocket League does a pretty good job of surviving relatively high pings, or what you'd think of as high pings. Like even getting up to 100, it's somehow still totally manageable.
Ping doesn't seem to be the problem in Rocket League. It's just spikes.
Yeah.
Like a sudden stutter.
Well, it's when
It's
it
the
actually
absolute worst.
rewinds, essentially.
Yeah.
If it lags enough that it repositions you, that's really jarring.
Yeah, it's the worst. Because you could be somewhere you don't expect, at an angle you don't expect, with the momentum you just had.
Yeah.
It's super weird.
Yeah. So there's that. We got that done, finally.
That's
The video is posted, embedded on our site. In case you didn't see it whenever.
I might have to watch that.
Yes, apparently
with-
right.
Because I had no idea that it happened.
with commentary from some American guy who doesn't play Rocket League, apparently.
Well, he plays Rocket League.
Oh, all right.
But not that much.
Yeah.
The community manager of Giant Bomb. And
Oh,
also,
is that
it's
how
not,
it is? Right.
not exactly commentary either. I mean, he wasn't
No.
intending to actually make this a commentary thing.
No.
Just like, I'm going to be streaming this and talking.
And talking.
Just talking.
Yeah. He did a bit of commenting.
Yeah, he occasionally comments on things.
What's that guy's name again? Can't
Rory.
remember. Rory, yeah.
So yeah, there's that. The only thing that I wish that was different about, because Twitch nowadays archives the chat stream, so it saves what was happening in the chat at the time of the video.
Right.
But the Giant Bomb chat didn't. I mean, obviously they don't archive
they
their
don't do
chat.
No.
But I was just like, I wish I could have gone back and see what the chat said, because like that would have been interesting to see people actually commenting on what was happening in the game.
Yeah, if they were commenting on what was happening in the game.
Well, I think sometimes they were. Because I had the window open, but the Giant Bomb chat also doesn't. It only retains so long, like it doesn't retain everything. So I had the last like few pages of the chat
Right, yeah.
when we were winning at the end. It's like, oh. Someone definitely said go Team Zeg, and I was like, well, yeah, that would be when I scored that hat trick, I guess, because that was pretty much just me.
Nice. You, the only guy in a van, scoring a hat trick.
Someone also commented about the van, where it's like Merc shots. It's like, well, yeah, I guess you use the van. That's what you do. the other team were quite coordinated in their cars. I mean, they were all using the Octane, the actual
Standard.
standard professional grade Rocket League car. But they also, because their team was called Do You Have a Waffle, they also all had the waffle antenna.
Nice.
I was
nice.
like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. If only we'd planned, we could have done something that fancy on our team, I guess.
I don't think there's a Nintendo symbol anymore.
No, would have quite worked. They probably thought of that name with that intention.
Unless you bought the Switch version.
Well, yeah, they've announced that now. The Mario, Luigi, and Metroid cars.
Mm.
Yeah, obviously the Metroid one is the only one that looks good. Mario and Luigi ones are just like generic ass paint jobs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Rocket League. Yeah, I've almost forgotten why. Okay, we got like a goddamn ton of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even talked about NieR.
No, but you're still not really done with that, I guess.
I'm not done with it.
So we'll still have more chance to talk about it.
The only thing I want to say is that playthrough C, which is what I'm now
Up
on,
to 3.
is batshit.
Okay.
Like, the whole world changes.
Well, that's
And-
good, I guess,
well-
because you've already been free in like twice.
Well, I say the world changes, like what's happening in the world. You're still sitting playing in the same areas, but the whole concept of what the story is and was and where it's going is totally different now. A big thing happens. A very dramatic big thing happens at the start of that playthrough. To the point where they're so bold that they put the credits and a title card on screen as part of your third playthrough. It's like, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did that like more times after this.
Yeah.
Because, the old credits fake out style thing
Yeah,
is always
yeah.
good.
But it's properly well done, has to be said. Like, that, just how you get into that situation and how it pans out and what's happening now is really interesting. And some of the subtle stuff I was talking about before becomes quite unsubtle towards the end of playthrough 2. I have no idea where that game's going. I have zero, like, all my preconceptions of that narrative are gone. I do not know how this is going to end.
Well, that's theoretically good, but it also might just be where it's just like, why was it like this at the start?
I guess, yeah. Yeah, why did I play through 15 hours
of
the
this
first
kind of boring
story?
segment?
Yeah. Twice.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what. So I played about 40 minutes of Astroneer. I really want to play that with someone, and I bought it specifically with someone else to play it with them. But then, that just hasn't happened.
Okay.
But I was like, I really want. I just ended up going in there by myself. But I was like, I'm going to restrain myself from actually playing it.
Mm.
I just went in there maybe to see, because it's still in early access and everything. And I was like, how buggy does this look just from quickly jumping in there? Does it look like it's going to be a problem? It's like, well, it looks more solid than I thought it would.
Mm.
It seems like a functional, but then again, that's like, as soon as you put a game into a multiplayer environment, that's where you find out how it's like Space Engineers. Space Engineers, you play that single player, perfectly fine. Play that multiplayer, completely fucked.
Oh, really?
Because the lag compensation and stuff from dealing with multiple people, dealing with the physics engine is just really difficult for Space Engineers, which is why it just has never really worked that well.
Right.
And the
It's a shame
multiplayer,
because doesn't it kind of sell itself as being that?
well, kinda.
Mm.
Depends on how you want to play it, I guess.
Okay.
Especially for creative.
So how different is this from Space Engineers? Because it's got the same name.
Not really. It's pretty different. It's more like I don't know what game it is exactly like. It's more like a sort of survival base building type thing, I guess.
Hmm.
I mean, Space Engineers is that as well, I suppose. But it's less. I guess I'd say less freeform than Space Engineers, because you're more like just plopping down base modules, and then those modules do things. Which, here's the refinery module, and then you just collect resources and shove it in there, and it turns it into other resources.
Mm.
And it's so early access that there's not really any real structure to it. It's just here's the stuff you can do, and you just progress through that in a one after the other kind of order.
Mm.
So there's not really any real goals or real strategy to the progress or anything. It's just can you find the resources that you need?
Mm.
So you have to go off and explore. But yeah, didn't really do much of that.
All right. So
So
more to come on that.
And I also there's suggestions that maybe it's bigger than I thought it was as well. Because I was like, it didn't seem like there was much in it. Like I was like, oh yeah, you get this and then you get this and then you get this. And it's like I didn't get them all, and I was like, well, that seems like a logical progression. But supposedly, because I mean, for a start, there's like 5 planets that you can go to. So obviously you have to progress up the tech tree far enough to get the ability to actually launch back into space, and that seems like that's quite deep in what tech tree there is. But then, like, is this still in an early access enough point that, like, what is the point of launching down the planet?
Right, yeah.
Is there any actual reason for it, or is it just a cool thing that you can do?
Is it a way to say, let's do this again in a different place?
Or, like, will there be
more content?
Yeah, will there be something to do at some point in the future? Don't really know.
Does it at that point turn into No Man's Sky?
Well, man, those No Man's Sky patches. I keep thinking about going back to play that, but that'll be something that might happen at some point.
Right, yeah. It's too much on at the moment.
Yeah.
Too much on.
Another thing that I didn't play for very long, I guess, because you can't really, and it's not really that much of a game. So when I was on the Factorio forums, reading forum threads, and someone mentioned a stupid game on the internet, it's a web game, called Factory Idle, which is basically Factorio only stripped down to be like a shitty idle game.
Right.
Which is kind of funny. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. You have like production buildings and then you run conveyor belts between them and you have to ship the products out of the to make money. And then because it's an idle game, it's one of those things where it's like at the start you're making like £2 per tick, and then it just like the next factory up costs $1 billion, and then you're just like multiplying the ridiculous amount of money you're making by making more complicated products. It's one of those classic things.
Make the numbers go up.
But it's not exactly. I think it's intentionally made to be more of an actually idle game, where like you can't really just mainline it as fast as you want. You actually do have to like leave it. And it has a system where, like, when you close the web browser or whatever, it just basically gives you, like, time acceleration when you come back. So it's like, when you come back, you just hit a button and it just runs everything super fast for as long as you were away.
Oh, nice.
So you can, like, catch up with how long you were away without necessarily... And that also means you can, like, bank time, essentially. Like, if you come up with a new idea or something and you, like...
I see.
You don't waste your time.
So you can build it with the money you had and then use your... the time you were not playing it just to say, okay, now run this thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah.
For an idle game, that's a mechanic, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like I'm kind of hitting a wall with as far of it as I've got, where it's like I need $1 billion to unlock the next thing that I want, and it's like I'm only at like 300 million, and it takes like several hours to make another 100 million. I'm like, have I just not optimized this well enough, or is this like literally just a speed bump I have to get through? Is there something I could do to make me more money quicker?
Yeah, is there stuff you could be clicking?
Well, not you don't really click. It's not a clicker. It's like you just build the factory and then it just goes.
Okay.
More or less.
And then there's a real time element, just to,
that's
what. So it's idle in the time sense, not in the clicker sense.
No. Which is weird to think that a clicker game would be an idle game, because it's not really. Except it is, because you make things that do the clicking for you in a lot of ways. Which is weird. It's a whole conceptual problem with that whole idea. So there's that. Okay, so there's two main things, one of which was a demo, which I showed Rob earlier. I played the demo of Project Octopath Traveler, as it's called, apparently. May or may not retain the project thing when it actually comes out. Who knows? Whether that's just their project name project.
I bet they just dropped the project and it just comes out called Octopath Traveler.
Yes. It was a thing that we saw briefly at E3, and we're like, what the hell even is that?
Because it flashed by so fast.
Yeah. It's well, the main thing that I came to realize as soon as I saw any of it, I guess, because it popped up in the Switch news feed, which is basically how I'm finding out about new stuff on the Switch. Helpfully, Nintendo are posting, because not much is actually coming out. Every time something comes out, it gets posted in the news feed, and you're like, oh, what was that? All these Neo Geo games I don't care about. Well, never mind. Skip those and look at this. So I looked at the news post for Octopath Traveler, and it says in there, it's like, oh, it's by some of the people who made Bravely Default. And I was like, oh, okay. that makes sense. And then when I actually got to look at the game, it's like, oh, now it really makes sense because the title screen looks exactly like Bravely Default. It has exactly the same white text on a black background with lines.
Yeah, the sort of same similar font as well.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's probably exactly the same font.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, this definitely is made by the Bravely Default people. And then you actually play it, it's like, oh, this literally is made by the Bravely Default people because it pretty much has the Brave and Default system.
Yeah, look at the Brave and Default combat engine. Is
Except not quite. It's like it's actually kind of a simpler version because you can't spend into the negative like you can in Bravely Default. You can't like over burn your points. You can only use as many as you have, and like from the combat that you have in the demo, it seems like it's not going to put as much focus on defense as Bravely Default does.
Right. So you reckon you're just going to be attack as best you can?
Yeah. It's not so advantageous, I guess, I'd say, as Bravely Default to actually hold back and then build up the points. Because it seems like in this game, the critical factor is the like armor breaking. You use the specific weakness of the enemy to break down their armor, and then they become vulnerable for a turn, and then that's where you do major damage. So it's like it seems like you actually want to be attacking a lot more. You sort of want to chip all the enemies down towards the breakpoint as fast as possible, so they can't attack you as much. And then you break them, and then you do one big attack. So you do kind of want to save points to some extent to make that one big attack as big as possible. But you also don't want to waste time sitting there taking damage. Also because defending doesn't seem to actually do much defense.
Oh, right.
Not as much as I'd like.
You don't actually gain that much of a bonus to the health, damage reduction.
No. Although interestingly, it does seem like you can maybe use the boost on your defense. Like you can enhance your defense with boost points, but that seems like the exact opposite
of why you
would
defend.
Do.
Yeah.
Unless it's for like the classic boss enemies where it's like they wind up for an attack and you're like, okay, so the next turn here comes the big attack.
Yeah, I better burn some boost on, otherwise I'm all going to die.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so basically it looks kind of like Final Fantasy VI style sprites, but in a 3D world with crazy lighting engine.
Yeah, which I have to admit, it's super stylish looking.
Yeah.
It's really cool seeing it in action. Like with the sort of mist that hangs over it all as well is really nicely done. Like it's that FF6 color palette as well, like the SNES version of FF6. I have to point out, not the crappy remake.
No, yeah.
Or even the PlayStation version's fine. That sort of those sort of browns,
yes,
and rock looks, but with as I say, with this really nice lighting engine and depth of field effect.
It actually sometimes like at the start when you're in the dude's house and there's a bit of it shows like you can see slightly outside the house and there's a bit of grass and stuff. I was like, it looks very much like how Minecraft looks with those with like the mods that give it the weird HDR as what will be the official fancy texture pack thing.
What did they call it? The good looking update? Or
yeah, whatever they called it. It looks a lot like that. That way that Minecraft looks with them when they added fancy lighting and fog and stuff to it. Has that same kind of weird look. But yeah, it looks really awesome.
It's really nice.
It's also Unreal Engine 4, and I was like, oh,
it was really
the first game that I've seen running that on the Switch.
Yeah. Well, Snake Pass runs Engine 4.
Well, I guess the first time I've seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I was also like, this demo makes it hard for me to tell how big this game is going to be, and that's my one suspicion about it. Because I mean, there's 8 characters. And apparently you can play any of the 8 characters and build a party of up to 4 of the other characters. So you can just go around and recruit the other characters into your team. So there's going to be like 8 stories, presumably, because that seems to be the way it's laid out. But there's no real indication in the demo of like how big the world might be. Like it's hard to get a feel, because like the 2 map sections that are in the demo, it shows you a part of a map and you can't really access the actual map, and that part of a map looks like it's designed as though it was a whole map, except it's clearly not big enough for there to be like 6 other characters.
I don't know, definitely not on the bit you can see.
Yeah, so it's really hard to tell how long that game's going to be.
It has to be bigger than what you can see. It has to be.
And hopefully, unlike Bravely Default, it won't just repeat the same thing 4 times at the end.
Well, yeah. That whole ending bit was a bit ridiculous. But I said to you before we went on air, that if it's anything like the last Bravely Default games, that they will have some tricks up their sleeve about what that game is.
Yeah. And it has a weird system where you find side quests in the world that sometimes can be only completed by one of the characters, and sometimes you can complete them with the different characters in different ways. Because each of the 8 characters is going to have their own unique skill that they interact with the world with. So in the demo, you have 2. You have the warrior dude whose skill is challenge any NPC to a battle, and you just have a fight. And that seems kind of pointless. But then the other one you get is the dancer, whose ability is just to make a random NPC follow her by alluring them, which also works on anyone. Well, anyone you can do it on, not everyone, obviously.
Okay.
It's specific. You can't challenge everyone for a fight either.
Small child, come hither.
Yes, but then making one of the NPCs follow you, that's her special combat ability as well. So you can basically, the NPCs that follow you have their own combat ability, so you can just put them into combat for a few turns.
I need you as a meat shield.
Yeah, basically. But then you can also use that to solve the missions in the world, where it's if you go and find a specific person who wants to go somewhere, you can be like, oh, I know where that is, so I can lead you here, and that will complete your mission or whatever.
Interesting.
Or sometimes you just need to beat someone up.
Yeah.
Someone who's being a bastard, just punch them a bit.
I want to know how far along this is in development as well, because it doesn't seem like that long ago that it was announced, and they made it sound like it was really early days for the project when that was first shown.
But equally, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very difficult project to finish.
Maybe not, just because of how it's made and stuff like that.
Yeah, sprites in a not very complicated world.
That is my one complaint with how that thing looks, is I wish the enemies had more animation, because they just sort of stand there.
Well, yeah, they don't. It's like classic Final Fantasy. They don't animate at all, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like they're like the really old ones where they're just a big sprite.
Yeah. It's just a big sprite. Just looks like a big old. And then occasionally it fires fancy lighting effects at you. That's about as much animation as you're going to get.
Yeah, I wish there was a bit more there to it, because they've obviously shown they can do a bit more to it thanks to Bravely Default and how that looks. The enemies did actually have sort of basic attack animations, didn't they? And being hurt animations, and
yeah,
I think it's a bit lacking in that department.
I mean, I think they did it deliberately to be like an old Final Fantasy game, just with now it's got lighting.
Sure, but your characters animate
slightly
stuff.
Yeah,
and I mean, yeah, even that's retro, but yeah, I don't know, just a little thing. They don't have to be super. There doesn't have to be 100 frames of animation or anything like that. I just want to see a little bit of reaction.
I mean,
even if it's just not even an animation, but a hop, where the sprite actually moves rather than just firing a light.
Maybe it'll be interesting. I mean, I think I don't know. It might have to be a case of waiting for reviews or whatever. But the first thing that will be an indication will be what the price of it is, I guess.
Oh, you reckon it'll be a full-on Bravely Default price title, or
yeah, I mean,
or a little
that
thing?
May indicate how big it is to some extent. But I still think it'll have to be. You'll just have to wait until someone plays it and tells you.
Yeah. So go get that demo. It's freely available.
Yes, was the advantage of the Switch, where you will occasionally get actual demos. I guess.
Surprise.
And then finally,
I remembered one other thing I played at EGX, which was a Switch game.
Yeah.
It was called Flat Heroes, a minimalist action game.
Okay.
And it was you play as a square that has Meat Boy-esque controls. You sort of roll around except you're sort of a square that rolls, but you can jump, and you have an air dash,
right? And
you sort of stick to walls. So you're using that to get around, and it's basically just survive. Stuff comes at you, lines come at you, and things come at you, or bits of the world get blocked off and you die. And it's basically up to 4 people can play it, and as long as one of you survives, you pass the level.
Okay.
And so we did that for quite a while. It's actually quite a lot of fun, because it ramps up in difficulty pretty quickly to get through the stages. And yeah, it was a good time was had. To the point where we didn't realise a queue was forming behind us, because we'd been playing it for quite a while. And yeah, basically. And then the dev came out, "Jesus, there's a queue behind you guys." And it's really? Oh yeah, so there is. Well, I guess this game's good then.
Helpful.
Indies.
I guess so. Indies. And then the last game I played was a situation where I had a craving for a specific kind of game. I had played quite a significant chunk, the main thing I played the last 2 weeks, I guess, of 7 Days to Die, because I had a craving for some kind of survivalism, I guess.
Really?
You remember how I
Oh,
played
thing.
Worm for a long time?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Have you not played The Long Dark? That just came out.
That was the other one that I was thinking about, because I remembered that you played it and all
Yeah.
that.
And it's quite well liked
Yeah.
for one of those.
It's pretty
But
good.
yeah. So I went into 7 Days to Die, which again is another game that I might want to play with someone, but this one I felt more logical about playing single player as well. If I do play it multiplayer.
I don't know anything about this one. Is it sort of one of these first person ones, or is it a Don't Starve style one?
Well, I wouldn't call it. Well, I mean, it's first person. It's basically incredibly generic if you just describe it as what it actually is, because it's just like it's a zombie survival game.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Where you just go around and try and survive in a zombie apocalypse.
With hunger and health.
Yeah,
and,
with hunger and health and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It seems very generic, but I mean, at least it's it's still in early access and everything, but it seems reasonably well made. It's obviously like, just from the look of it, you're like, oh, this is a sort of a B tier kind of looking thing, where it's sort of like, yeah, these animations are kind of a bit naff, and the actual quality of the models in the game isn't great or whatever, but it's still functional. But yeah, the main trick about it is that, like, firstly, it's got a building system, like a block based. The world is not block based, but the building blocks are block based.
Right, yeah.
I guess the world kind of is block based, because if you start digging into the terrain, it takes out a specific chunk, and then that's exactly where a block will fit. So you can dig out an exactly square hole or whatever.
Right.
But so yeah, it has that.
But it doesn't look it unless you start manipulating it.
Yeah, the world normally looks more smooth. It's I say it's randomly generated. There's also a handcrafted map, but I don't know how I haven't played that one, so I don't know how handcrafted.
Right.
Whether it's randomly generated, but
then tuned.
In that way or not. But yeah, randomly generated map if you want it, which is what I went for, because that makes more sense to me
For a survival game, I guess. Yeah. I mean, The Long Dark has it's a predefined map, I think, for that. But yeah.
But yeah, so you have this block-based building system. The block-based building system also actually has physics attached to it. So, like, you can't build too much of an overhang before it will collapse.
Right.
Which is also partially, like, for the zombie attacking mechanisms, where it's just like you can actually have things get destroyed by not necessarily being destroyed entirely, by having, like, an important part taken out or whatever.
Yeah, I get you.
So yeah, and then you go around and you scavenge stuff for food and health and guns, and you just go around scavenging as you do, and then you build a base with the block building system to survive the zombies. But the main trick of the game is in the name, 7 Days to Die, where basically through the first 7 days the zombies aren't really much of a threat. Basically, they're slow ass wobbly zombies during the day, and they become fast at night, but they don't really care about you that much if you just stay out of the way, which is why you just hole up in a house or whatever during the night, and that's fine. But then on the 7th day, during the night of the 7th day, all the zombies just know where you are and they come for you. So that's when you have to spend the week beforehand, like, preparing basically for the horde on the 7th day, and then you survive, and then every 7 days that repeats. It gets progressively harder.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fairly competent one of those games.
Is there enough to it to keep you hooked for long?
I'd say probably for quite a while, and it's also not like a fast game, I guess. Like, even on, I think the default setting is for, like, each day to be a 2-hour period.
Right.
So you have, like, more or less.
Oh, right.
Like,
so that is quite a while.
An hour and a half of daylight, and then the half hour of night, or whatever.
Yeah.
More or less. So it's not exactly a fast game, but that gives you enough time to go around and do things, do scavenging, be stealthy if you want to. You don't necessarily have to, with how dumb the zombies are during the day. Particularly when you're just running through the world, you just ignore them, you just run past, and they can't catch you. Unless it's a zombie dog, in which case you might actually have to fight it.
Right.
zombies. It's weird because the wildlife in that game is way more dangerous than the zombies, and not just the zombie wildlife, just like regular ass wildlife. It will completely kill you way faster than an actual zombie will. Like, don't fight a wild boar unless you're actually prepared to like kill it in one shot, because otherwise it might fuck you up real quick. Something I think that's actually quite a recent change in one of the more recent patches. Like they redid the wildlife and maybe accidentally made it too strong.
Right.
So that may or may not get fixed in the future. We'll see. But yeah, content-wise, there's a decent amount for whatever stage of early access this is in. I mean, they're still working on it, I guess. So yeah,
Craving satisfied.
well, maybe.
Craving mid satisfaction.
I would probably continue playing it a bit more. I'm at the point where I'm not having to struggle to survive in terms of like food or guns, I guess. Theoretically I don't really have to go out and scavenge any longer. I'm more or less self-sufficient unless I run out of certain materials like mechanical parts or whatever that you have to strip out of cars. But then the point that I'm at with like the defending against the zombie hordes, I'm basically trying to exploit the AI. I'm at the point where I'm like, I could just keep adding more and more layers of spikes around my base. That would theoretically work.
Right, yeah.
Because, the zombies wear down the spikes by just piling on them. So eventually you have to start shooting them. But I could just keep adding more and more spikes to cut down more trees and add more spikes.
Yeah.
But I'm like...
But surely you'll run out of trees eventually.
Well, you replant trees.
Okay.
And they grow pretty quick.
Okay.
But I'm at the point where I'm just like, I'm trying to work out what the AI is doing to be like, how can I better funnel these zombies into traps? Like, do more smart traps. And it hasn't quite worked yet. Because first of all, I built a moat, and I was like, yeah, I can build a moat and just have one door. I could have my main door and have a drawbridge, and that's just where I'll walk in and out during the day, because that'll be easy. But then I'll raise the drawbridge, have a moat, and have a back door that's in the moat, and that will lure all the zombies to it, right? And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that, because the AI, instead of trying to go to the door, sometimes the zombies will just try and tunnel through the walls into my basement.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, oh, that's not exactly what I was hoping for. So then I was like...
That's actually pretty clever in its own way.
Then I was like, well, does that mean I have to abandon the moat entirely? Do I have to fill this moat in to prevent the zombies tunneling into my basement?
Or just build the moat deeper.
Well, then I had the alternate idea of maybe I'll build a bridge over the moat that's an alternative route to my drawbridge, and just have that bridge covered in traps. So, like, it'll be a much more constricted path, so it will still be... But it will be a path. Like, the pathfinding should recognise it as a route to my front door. But that didn't seem to work, because at that time, when I built that, not a single zombie ran onto this bridge that was full of traps. They all kept piling into the moat. But for some reason, they then were pathfinding to the door better. Like, they weren't trying to tunnel through the wall any longer. And I was okay, so that did change something, but not exactly in the way that I thought it would. So I think my next experiment will just be to, like, wall off the door in the moat and see if just having the bridge full of traps will work by itself.
So does the game let you... Are you able to load saves to do this, like, relatively fast? Like, so you only have to play the last day?
No, I'm
have...
just progressing.
Right.
Like, this has been, like, the last two hordes have been this
experiment.
Oh,
I see. Right, okay. So these are, like, 10-hour sessions between each attempt.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
But, it's not too bad. You're just finding stuff, collecting things. The moat was the big project, where I spent pretty much that whole 7 days only digging the moat and reinforcing it and putting all the spikes in. Didn't go out scavenging at all. Which, sometimes I feel like I'm getting behind the curve somewhat on, like, weaponry.
Right, I see.
Like, if I was going out scavenging, I might be finding more better guns and leveling up my skills of crafting rather than just digging holes.
Yeah, I get you. There's a balance to be met.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a reasonably decent game, but probably would be better in multiplayer.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. Yeah, provided the physics play good.
Yeah. So that's that. And that's the end of the podcast, because Jesus Christ.
Yep, sorry. I honestly had no idea I'd gone on for that long. That's my fault.
No,
I know there was a lot to cover, but I probably should have done it slightly more concisely.
Cool.
I won a game.
You won a game?
I won a game. random. I didn't win it through skill or anything like that.
Okay.
But the Xbox had had a random giveaway section where it's like, here, pick a box, and it might have something in it. So you pick a random box out of the pile, and I got one that had a little, I shake it, and it's like, oh, it's got a little card in there. What's it got? And I open it up, and it says, you've won a game. And they go into the back room and hand you a bag, and it's like, okay, right, great, moving on. So I then opened the bag, and lo and behold, inside I find a disc copy of Recall.
Oh, okay then.
So in fairness, that disc copy should entitle me to the definitive edition patch.
Yes, hopefully.
So I will be playing Recall in its true form, not in its half-assed not finished form. So I guess we'll get to see what that's like eventually.
I guess so.
So yeah, the most swag I've got out of an EGX.
Sweet, nice one.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Cool.
Yeah, Kipper's got 12 months of EA access, which is less good.
Yeah. Barely a prize.
He was like, okay, I'm a bit like, okay, that's not actually that terrible. I guess we could play new FIFA.
Woo.
In a sort of comedy way. You can see if McGoldrick can get a goal, or even if McGoldrick's still about, I don't know.
Yeah.
Podcast. So yeah, join us next time for the NieR Automata playthrough number 3 or 4 or wherever you are.
More about it. We're getting to the point where it's like I wonder if we have to start talking about this in a spoilery kind of way, because there's just so much going on.
No, it's been quite. You're like behind the curve, I guess. Right?
I'm very behind the curve. Yeah,
So
like NieR was like March, I think, when it came out. In terms of like time, but
we might be cool.
That game is the story.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's
exposed.
Or we might not be cool. We shall decide.
Maybe we end with my NieR talk next week, and we can make a decision. So.
Check out our YouTube channel. We got videos. Check out Happy Salad for the link to the Twitch stream for Zach's victorious final of the Rocket League tournament, Giant Bomb. And we'll catch you in a couple of weeks for another Saladcast.
Yeah, I expect Divide by Sheep will be the next video that goes up.
Oh yeah, I've almost forgot about that.
Yeah, it's been so long ago since we recorded that. Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Right, catch you next time, listeners.
Goodbye.
Bye.